We're going to be doing a little bit of brainstorming on new things happening in Standard. If you haven't heard recently, Kaladesh is a new set that's coming out, and the two of us are thinking about brainstorming ideas, trying to bring a little bit of a different aspect of Magic, maybe that maybe some other people haven't thought of, or something maybe a little unorthodox. I myself, you can call me Rockout, you can call me Mike. Some of you guys may know me from my previous streams of other things, but I want to delve into Magic because it's something that it's very passionate for me. 13 years in Magic, played every format. Time to, give people my opinion and have them tell me that I'm terrible. So try that. If Mike wants to do his intro.
Alright, my name is Michael Ruskowski. I've been playing Magic for well over 20 years. My current interest is Standard Environment. I have played other formats, not as passionate about those other formats as Standard. I really enjoy, the challenge of building decks, staying up on the current metagame, and just every little thing. If you can just create your own brainchild and bring it to a tournament and just absolutely smash people. It's the dream of every Magic player. And, hopefully we can bring a little bit of that, knowledge to you and while we go through and see what's leaving, what's coming in. And we hope you enjoy our video.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to start off doing is I want to just go through quickly what's leaving. What's leaving the upcoming format, Standard most notably. And as you can see, these nice little tabs here, we have Dragon Trek here, which is leaving, and Magic Origins, which is leaving. So just going to scroll through really quickly, make some comments on cards that had definitely had their heyday, cards that went away in this most recent rotation, and cards that maybe we'll see in other formats, maybe not. And feel free to comment as we go.
So right off the bat, Dragon's Tarkir, the one card that is on the top of our list, Collected Company. Who's happy to see this card go? Because I am, without a doubt, happy to see this card go. Band Company, absolutely atrocious deck to play against. So many flash creatures, Collected Company, counter spells. Now with the new introduction of Spell Queller, forget it. Get this card out.
This card has been needing to leave for a long time. Another card that I want to bring up, since we're going straight into it, is that Dromoka's Command. One card that has just seen an insane amount of play and needed to go a long time ago. So I'm going to try to go to Dromoka's Command right now. This card just did work from the very get-go. As Mike was saying, Band Company, it just had so many versatile answers, cheap interactions, like Dromoka's Command, let me deal an extra point of damage to you, and oh yeah, let me kill your guy as well. So,
or sack your enchantment.
Yeah. It's sack your enchantment. Like, come on, man. What were they thinking?
So many 2-for-1s just on this card alone. They play down a Reflector Mage, bounce one of your creatures. You play another creature out of your hand because you can't play the one they just bounced. Now they Dromoka's Command, kill your creature, and they got a 1/1 counter and smashing you for 3 with their Reflector Mage.
So there's no way this can be right. Such Dromoka's Command is 99 cents out of stock. So there's a reason it's out of stock, because that card is good. It's very well could see modern play of some kind. Alright, so let's go just through the mythic rares. So obviously Death Disruptor is leaving. It had its heyday.
Yeah, but it had its heyday, but when just the more powerful cards came out, Reflector, basically everything from the Battle and Oath of Gatewatch set, man, Deathmas Raptor he got ran over, and it's like he just didn't see the play after when he first came out.
Yeah, I was really hoping to see him in an Emerge style deck, but other things just took its place, and it just kind of went by the wayside. A card I'm gonna miss. Playing Green Rail Eldrazi, playing this on turn 5 and just getting an entire board is... I'll miss this guy a little bit.
Yeah, I will too. But I love green decks in general. Big fan of any ramp strategy. Red green ramp, played it for probably the past 3 months solid, And yeah, Dragon Lord Atarka, just a huge answer. When you're powering it out, man, you nail this guy on turn 5 and you just wipe their board. Now they have an 80 flyer they have to deal with. Not to mention, if they deal with it, what else do you have right behind that?
That's actually a really good point. So what are some other? I can't think of any other Dragon Lords that made as much of an impact, other than obviously the forgotten hero Dragon Lord Ojutai, and maybe a
Yeah,
little bit of Slumgar.
yeah, the Esper Dragon Lords, back when that was a deck,
Hmm.
Abzan was still in, and you know what? It was the one deck I didn't want to see when I was playing Abzan. Like, just everything they did with the Dragon Lords and Ojutai's Command, another card that's leaving. I was gonna, bring up Blue White being a new deck in the format, and it's like with the loss of, Dragon, Ojutai's Command, it's a big loss for that kind of deck. And when it saw its heyday and with that play, those Dragon Lords were just unstoppable.
Hmm. Just going through it really quickly. Not too much else. Shaman of the Forgotten Way saw some sideboard play, but for the most
Limited
part,
play.
we're just going to exit out of that and go through just quickly some rares. Obviously, a lot of the different commands, the Tarkus command saw a lot of play. Obviously, some modern play in Burn. Card just does so
Well, the
much
Atarka
work.
Red deck too, smashing people with Teamer Battle Rage. I mean, before you knew what was happening, they dealt their graveyard, they smash you for 14, and the game was over.
Yeah, Den Protector goes by the wayside, the same as Deathmaster Actor, which we just talked about earlier. Scrolling through really quickly. Um, Pick up your Kolagon's command, 5.99 out of stock. There's a reason it's out of stock because it's modern playable.
Yeah, and as far as Den Protector too, that's another card that, especially with Pulse from Ross and that just came in. It's like, oh, what a wonderful card just recur your Pulse from Ross. Yeah, let the Den Protector die. You get it back and you just start that chain all over again. Big loss for Standard.
You know what I find really interesting about Standard is when you take a little bit of time off from Standard and you think of Secure the Waste, you just assumed it was out of the format because nobody plays it anymore. And I'm looking at this list; it's going out. I haven't seen it in a list, and I can't even tell you how long it's been since I've seen this card.
I actually got smashed by this card not too long ago. The person played it against me for 4. Then they played a Gideon, made the emblem, and completely wrecked me because I had only one creature on the board. It was a tireless tracker with no counter on it and no mana to sack the clue. Completely got smashed by this card.
And instant speed. I
Yep.
mean, this could see play in other formats. Very, very strong. All right, let's just go quickly through Magic Origins. Not nearly as many playable cards. Temotic Pack, the funny card. Hey, let's lose the game.
How about Days Undoing? Talk about a card that hardly saw play that people touted as the new Time Twister.
Yeah, seriously. Days Undoing, though, in definitely an EDH or Commander, whichever your preference.
Jace.
Yeah, how could we skip Jace? This card, hey, it's only $2.99. That's not bad, guys. They're trying to get rid of their stock.
No, try 29.99.
Oh,
Yeah, a little
hey,
bit different there, Mike.
we missed a little digit here.
No, you missed a decimal point. Good try though. Yeah,
I
no,
wish it was $2.99.
2.99. Yeah, I would have bought those all day long. Even just as a spec for modern, yeah, $3 I would have paid.
Deal. And all the other human planeswalkers, Liliana saw some play. Nissa, unfortunately.
Yeah, another component of the ramp deck and another card that, oh man, you talk about card value. If they didn't kill it, you had a flip planeswalker. And if you nailed it with the +1 ability, if you nailed the land, it went to play, which just further your ramp strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't, you drew the card,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to kill it. Constant card advantage in a red-green ramp deck is just, I wouldn't say unbeatable, but you got to get past it, and it's really hard to do.
You know what makes me very disappointed? I just bought one of these not too long ago because I needed it because I didn't have it in my deck for I believe it was $15, and I'm disappointed to see me lose all of that value. But I gained
Well,
it back just by winning.
here's the thing, though. This is the type of card that I think you'll get your money back on because of EDH playable.
Mm.
It just I'm not saying it's all star. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. But as far as flip planeswalkers go, Jace is going to of course, keep some kind of value, and I think Nissa will too. If not for play, just in the hearts of the players themselves who play EDH.
If we're thinking about that for any of these others, buy them. They're really cheap right now. Even Jace at $30 is probably some value. It's going to see
Well,
play in other formats.
I don't know. I would wait till they rotate out of standard. I know it's very, very close, and I know, but once they rotate out, that's usually when the big sell-off goes. And tons of copies hit the market. It's like when Tasker rotated out. I cannot tell you how many copies of Tasker I bought for 50 cents.
Oh God, that card is good.
And it's just like, granted, I haven't made any money on it, but you just that card for 50 cents, it's gonna go up in value.
And now that it's seeing play as almost a 4 of in Grixis Delverant Modern.
Is it? Didn't you know that?
It might as well. As a legendary of all things. As a legendary. So let's keep going. So I just want to throw it up to my dear homie Samo, who wanted to make this card good. Thank you for leaving the format so that he can play something else.
And I really don't want to rep another site at this point, but Star City did a deck tech with Mike Sanmartino on his enchantment deck, and you could watch that video online.
Wow.
It was for us and for being fans of him, it was pure gold to watch.
All right. I don't even think we want to go through too many of these cards. We want to touch on the Pain Lands. So what I'm disappointed about the Pain Lands is that they tap for colorless mana. They tap for colorless, guys. Eldrazi Displacer, Reality Smasher, Thought Not Seer.
And we'll get to that later too, obviously, with the loss of the colorless mana. Like, I don't want to delve too much into it now, but the loss of the colorless, it might be a small loss at best. I think, if not for Kaladesh, somebody will find something that will create colorless mana in a less painful way, and it'll make the deck, just flow out a little bit easier, even though we lost Pain Lands.
That's fair. So now let's get into it. So you guys, you're probably here thinking, I just want to hear about Kaladesh, guys. You need to stop talking. You need to get to the things that are actually coming out. Screw the stuff that's coming out or going out. I only want to hear about Standard. Well, that's what we're giving you guys. We're going to go through the spoiler.
Well, before we go through the spoiler, right? Just right to start off, how do we feel about the vehicles in Standard?
God, let's bring up some of these vehicles that
You tried.
Tried and failed. That's my cue. All right, so let's look at some of these artifact vehicles. So if you guys, like I said earlier, if you've been hiding under a rock and you didn't see any of these spoilers, a lot of these vehicles are just artifacts.
Spoiler alert.
They don't have creatures. They don't have creature types other than vehicle. They don't actually do anything unless you crew them. Okay, so you see this little crew symbol right here, crew 3. So it says tap any number of creatures you control, power 3 or more. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn.
Now the thing to remember about these vehicles is when you play them, unless you have a creature out, they do stone nothing. Absolutely nothing when they come into play. Except for a couple that have triggered effects when they come onto the battlefield. Go ahead.
That's very good. I was just going to say, you have to tap an actual creature. So, say you just rip one of these off the top of your deck. What are you doing with the rest of your game plan? You have artifact vehicles in your deck. You're going to draw other vehicles. Those can't be used, to power up your other vehicles. Seems to be a clunky mechanic for me.
But coincidentally, something I learned about these vehicles is if you have a creature crew one of the vehicles, you can use a crewed vehicle to activate yet another vehicle. So if you have a creature with crew, power 3, crew the Ballista Charger, that can crew the 8/6 Menace right there, the Armada Express. Not that you're going to play that in Standard, because
maybe in Draft.
Draft maybe, but I don't see it in Standard. I think the vehicles, aside from maybe the Skyship Sovereign, seeing play, others, I just don't see. I don't see them making an impact. I think they're just going to be, cards that you just don't want to see. Maybe in limited, but definitely, or Smuggler's Copter even. I, it's only crew one, cast for 2 mana, but unless you have that crew one, it might see play, but it's really catch 22. It's like you need to have a creature to do it. You need to have a creature out there to even pilot the thing, and it's a 3/3 flyer. Something's gonna smash it. You still have Avacyn around. Avacyn can smash that thing in a heartbeat.
And I want to talk about this a little bit for modern playable. I've heard the hype train in modern. A lot of people, I think this card was sold out on Star City when I first saw about it, or when I first heard about it. And what you're trying to do in modern, obviously, affinity is the first thing that comes to mind. You have a lot of 1/1s in that deck that just don't really do anything. They get outclassed very quickly. Granted, this guy is a 2-drop, so maybe you're playing it on turn one if you're lucky. But even if you're playing it on turn two and being able to activate it, just doesn't seem that great.
Well, now for modern implications, how does this go in, like, say, a Naya Zoo deck? Like, would that, give you that little extra reach that you need to get, if the ground is gummed up, maybe gives you that little extra reach you need to smash it in the sky?
But then, what happens if your opponent stabilizes? This is the card you draw off the top of your deck.
Oh, it's terrible.
Then you just do stone nothing.
Oh, it was
Stone nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
Trying to play a little of the devil's advocate. I get you, but
Yeah,
I'm just not feeling it. One card that I think could see play is this Council Flagship, Sky Sovereign.
EDH all day long.
EDH, I could definitely see that. Crew 3, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, deals 3 damage to target creature or player an opponent controls. And it's a 6/5 flyer. Evasion, actually does something when it comes into play.
Will it see standard play
though? With Lupine Prototype.
Lupine Prototype.
Being,
Really?
Being sold out, has been sold out for a while now, at $1.50. If you play Lupine Prototype and this guy, maybe you're getting value. But to be honest, let's leave the vehicles for the people driving them. Am I right?
That was easy. Alright, so you're saying Lupine Prototype. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is the prototype doing when it hits the battlefield? Stone nothing?
Stone nothing.
Okay. So when you have the prototype out, okay, yes, it can crew the flagship.
Mm-hmm.
But meanwhile, you're playing a stone nothing into a stone nothing, and there's tons of removal in the format still.
That's fair.
So it's just like, yeah, you play the flagship, your Lupine Prototype. If you're not dead already from a fast red deck, okay, yeah, you get a 6/5 that you can attack or block with, but you need to tap the prototype to do it. And Fragmentize just came out in Kaladesh.
So what's killing Prototype? It gets around Grasp in Darkness, -4/-4. It gets around things like Galvanic Bombardment if they're playing it, maybe Reflector Mage, but that's not a really good removal spell. What else is going to deal either 5 damage or just outright kill it, other than Fragmentize? Because people are not playing Fragmentize main deck, let's be honest.
Well, that comes to one of my comments that I had in mind for this, and it was Sky Whaler's Shot. Now, this is a white card. I just think it is aces as far as standard play comes in because, I mean, just read the card. A white, 2 colorless, destroy target creature with power 3 or greater, and you scry 1 at instant speed.
I was really hoping for this card to be 1 and a white. At 2 and a white, I feel like it just clogs up your hand a little bit.
No way. This is going to be an all-star in standard.
All right. Mike's putting his money where his mouth is.
And blue-white control, or even Esper control. I think you're missing that scry 1. That scry 1 is huge.
I do like the fact that you can play it before you draw for your turn. Maybe that's good enough. Torrential. Obviously, we haven't touched on the Gear Hulks yet, but we're going to get to that point at at a later junction. But Torrential Gear Hulk, this card might be good enough. It kills all the other Gear Hulks.
So, and then I mentioned Fragmentize. Just bring that up real fast.
Yep.
Fragmentize. It's just.
Nope.
So, you destroy artifact or enchantment, convert mana cost 4 or less, 1 white mana. It is sorcery, but there goes your Lupine prototype.
And we were talking earlier about this card. When this card got spoiled, Snapcaster Mage flashed onto the battlefield and said, "I'd like to have a word. Maybe we can come to some understanding. Yes, you're a sorcery, but man, you give me a little bit of value. You're in the colors that I'm already going to be playing because Path to Exile and Snapcaster go together like this big gulp in my stomach. So I just feel like Fragmentize will, if it doesn't see play in Standard, which it very well could, it'll see play in Modern of some kind.
Fragmentize, I think we'll see some limited play in Standard simply because if you have a fast creature deck that is relying on some of the artifacts, especially like the copter, get that damage through, and it also Fragmentize kills Hedron Archive.
That is a good point. And the ramp decks will definitely be playing Hedron Archive in some capacity.
So if you go up to Aerial Responder, I want to say, okay.
Actually, I want to take a step back real quick. Since we have Fumigate on the field right next to Fragmentize. I just want to talk about this card a little bit. Since it's already here, we don't have to search anymore. Fumigate, the new quote-unquote Wrath of God. Destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. What are your first initial thoughts on this card?
Fantastic. As for control, fantastic card. Because you pair it with the Sky Whaler shot, you take out their biggest threat. Sure, you're taking a little bit of damage, in the interim if it's a fast creature deck, but you gain that life back when you destroy all those creatures. And if you have a do-nothing creature of your own, yeah, you're getting a life from that too. Or if you can block, just pitch it away, cast this for 5, and you're losing no value.
You know what I find interesting, because we just touched on the point of the vehicles. If you play a vehicle Fumigate deck, the Fumigate doesn't kill any of your vehicles. Now, I'm not saying this is good. I'm not going to put my money where my mouth is on this one, but you could get a little bit of one-sided value if you wanted to build your deck in that way. I'm not saying it's going to win you any tournaments, but hey, maybe an F&M here or there.
Okay, so you just made me think of a deck idea, and we're going to get to some of the deck ideas later. That's going to be part of our focus, but with the manlands, especially the what is it? The black white.
The Black Land Shambling Remains.
Yeah.
Oh, Shambling Vent.
Shambling Vent. Okay, if you you have the Shambling Vent with the vehicles, and it's cute. It's definitely cute, but
black-white control post-rotation. It could work. I mean, you still have Avacyn. You lose Obnixis Reignited, which is unfortunate. It could work. Could work.
Obnixis is bad, so you're not losing Obnixis. The Planeswalker you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that's in battle. You're not losing. You're not losing Obnixis. You're not losing Gideon.
Gotcha.
Well,
it's a good thing because I have 2 Gideons and I was this close to selling them.
Oh no, don't sell the card. That's a fan. It's just like Gideon Jura back in the day. Yeah, sure, they dropped a little when they rotated out of Standard, but now that card is seeing play in Modern again. And if I'm not mistaken, the value has jacked back up on that card. And that's why some of my older cards, some of the staples that while yes, if they rotate out of Standard, you may not want to play with them anymore. I say keep them because you never know what's going to become that next big card in Modern. If somebody's going to break open the deck, and that card, the value you get back on that card is tremendous.
I completely agree. So now we're going to take a step back away from the white cards.
Nope, I still want to talk about Aerial Responder. You still trying to get me off that card, so go back to white.
There's a reason I wanted to never talk about it again. Aerial Responder.
All right, so now 2 white, 1 colorless for a 2/3 flying vigilance and lifelink. Is it Vampire Nighthawk? No, it doesn't have Death Touch.
It's pretty close.
It's close, but the Death Touch is what threw Vampire Nighthawk over the edge. But the fact that this has the flying vigilance and lifelink, 3 mana. I want to say there's a control deck out there somewhere that blue-white control that's gonna absolutely love this card. It's a roadblock. It's a roadblock against fast decks.
That's
You
right.
know, you let them get through. You swing in the air. You block on the next turn. You fumigate.
I mean, it's got a fat butt on it. It's going to block 2-1s and 2-2s, which are the standard aggro cards in
Not to
almost
mention
any format.
the Thopters, the Servos.
That is true. Flying Vigilance Lifelink. I overlooked this card initially. Maybe Mike will make me a believer when he plays White Weenie.
No, it's not going to White Weenie. I'm saying a control deck. I mean, all right, maybe White Weenie, but I don't. With some of the cards that rotated out, like Kithian, like Knight of the White Orchid, I'm not sure a White Weenie deck is still in the works. Maybe, but I highly doubt it, especially with, you still have a lot of creature kill in the format. And let's face it, when you're looking at some of the bigger cards that slam on the table, like the Gearhulks, the White Gearhulk is 5 mana. You're not getting there with a White Weenie deck. I don't see it happening.
So you don't want to go Aerial Responder into Angel of Invention because you're just going to get blown out by White Gear Hulk all day?
You can, but I have no problem saying this. Angel of Invention will not see play.
Oh man, our buddy Mike Shiragi seems to think otherwise.
Ooh.
Seems to think otherwise. This is a $5 mythic that has a potential to be very strong. It puts 6 power on the board. 6 power, flying vigilance, lifelink, whatever. Every creature seems to have that nowadays, a la aerial responder. But Angel of Invention, it could see play.
I don't see it seeing play. It's too easy to get rid of. It's too much for a card that, okay, it has impressive stats, but for standard, with some of the beatdown decks, I don't see it doing that much for the mana cost. If it was 4, yeah, all day long. If it was 2 white and 2 colorless, I could definitely see it seeing play. 5, when you have the choice of casting this thing or the White Gearhulk, Cataclysmic Gearhulk, I'll pick the Gearhulk.
But what about Angel of Invention with a card that we haven't touched on yet, and I believe we're getting into it later, but I want to talk about it now since we're on the subject of come into play abilities, is our favorite card, Eldrazi Displacer.
Okay.
Eldrazi Displacer.
So talking about cards that didn't leave and might put a dent in the format, Eldrazi Displacer, yeah, with all the come into play abilities on the Gearhulks, some of these other cards, even the new Mull Drifter, it's the Cloud Blazer. I see Eldrazi Displacer. That's why I said somebody's going to find a way to put colorless in the deck and have it meld perfectly, because that card is too strong with all the come into play abilities not to see play.
So let's bring up Eldrazi Displacer real quick, because I'm pretty sure you guys know what it is. I just want to bring it up off screen real quick. So we'll have another one of these so we can actually look up cards. At 449, still holding a little bit of value. This card also can be tapped to activate all your accrue abilities. We didn't actually touch on that when we were talking about the Sky Sovereign, now that I think about it.
Oh no, this is something I thought of. I didn't mention it yet so far, but Eldrazi Displacer, you activate your Sky Sovereign, you swing. If you have the mana up, you can still flash out the Sky Sovereign, deal 3 damage when it hits the enter the play battlefield again. It's a cute combo. It's not a combo that's just going to slam win you the game. But again, the vehicles, we have to see what their impact is going to be on standard.
So we're going to go back to Eldrazi Displacer quite a bit, I'm sure. We're going to talk about a top 10 list that we have. Okay. All right, he's going to take a break. I'm going to go through cards without him. So I'm going to talk about cards that I think are good. Yeah. Let's see. So I want to talk about some of the decks, give you a deck idea now that we have a second to talk. So Emerge was something that came onto the the field relatively strong in the last rotation. And as you can see, we don't really lose a whole lot. We lose Nissa, we lose Jace, but some of the best cards in this deck, which are um, Wretched Griff, Emrakul, Ishkana, those cards are still in the format. They're still going to be doing a ton of work in every aspect. We don't lose Vessel. We still have Grapple with the Past, which is, as somebody called it the other day, it's an Ancestral Recall and a tutor. That might be a little strong for this card, but it does do a lot of good things. You know, it helps you hit your third land. Late game, it gets you that creature like Emrakul or Ishkana to just kind of like either stabilize or really pull ahead. Unfortunately, it does lose some of these really good cards. Um, oh, we still have Kozilek's Return, so man, that card's just going to be straight gas. Straight gas, homie. Alright, so we lose Gather the Pack and Nissa's Pilgrimage, so those are two cards that, you know, I'm going to miss a lot. I played them quite a bit. The fact that Gather to the Pack gets you 2 creatures get spell mastery, you know, we're going to miss you, but we'll find other things to make it work. So every other card in this, other than the 2 Manland Planeswalkers, is still in. Let's freaking run it back. Let's run it back for another standard format, guys.
I say it came in right at the right moment. Nissa's Pilgrimage, another card, beloved card in our ramp deck. That, yeah, sorry to see that go. I mean, as far as mana ramp comes in the current format, just not there. I mean, Ruin in their wake, yeah, but only if you have waste, and you really want to put yourself through that of trying to go get a waste just so you can ramp in growth.
Just so that you can fail to find.
Well, not fail to find. I mean, you're always going to have a target for Ruin in their wake, but without the waste, it's not actual ramp. It just gets you a land in your hand, and I mean, at that point, why not use Primal Druid or even Pilgrim's Eye? I mean, Pilgrim's Eye is still in the format. You can pick any land you want.
So there's nobody on this earth that can back up this statement what I'm about to say, but I said it earlier when we were chatting. I said that I have never lost a game that I played Nissa's Pilgrimage on turn 3. And I'm going to stick with that. I know that's not true, but I'm going to say it anyways because this card literally did everything I wanted it to do and more. Gets your lands, spell master late game, you know, pulls land out of your deck that you don't want. Everything that Mike said and reiterated just does so much work, and I'm sorry to see it go. I didn't play you enough, my friend.
Oh, I played the living hell out of this card. Every chance I got to play this in the deck, I did it. Because, you know, what a lot of people fail to remember is, yeah, you get a land into play and land in your hand. But if you have spell mastery, especially with all the grapple decks that just came out, it's like spell mastery was so easy to hit. You're also thinning your deck out and getting, you know, you're creating card advantage by getting those cards in your hand. You're never missing a land drop at that point. Once you get that engine going, you just never miss a land drop.
So I just want to change gears a little bit. We're going to start going through cards that we think, and when I say we, Mike picked out a few of these cards. So I'm gonna leave him to do the intro for this card specifically.
Well, before we get to that, there's one card in particular that I thought was just a pure flavor fail of leaving out of the new set, and it's rotating out of Origins. Mike's going to try to bring this up for me. Artificer's Epiphany. Now, for nobody who remembers this card, I tried. I tried to make this card work in a control deck, but such a flavor fail. We have Artificers. Why can they not have an Epiphany?
What I don't understand is, why is Artificer's Epiphany out of stock as a foil? Did I miss something? Am I behind the times in my cards? I don't know. This card is just weird.
Well, it may be out of stock because anybody who had them just tossed them in the box and never sold them.
That's fair.
I mean, trust me, nobody's seeking this card out. Nobody's going out of their way to get an instant divination, you know, when you control artifact. But in a new standard, pure flavor fail that this is not in Kaladesh.
I completely agree. if you control no artifacts, discard a card. Come on, give us instant speed card draw. Instant speed card draw. That's all we want.
Is it too good? Is it too good if you control an artifact in the new set?
I don't think so. I think you would rather discard a card with the Gear Hulks. You want to be able to get those cards into your bin so that you can either reanimate them. We'll talk about that a little bit later with some deck ideas, but you sometimes you want things to go to the graveyard. We just talked about a merge. Things want to go to the graveyard. You want to get those card types in your graveyard. You want Emrakul to be cheaper. You want Ishkana to be actually give you value.
But if the blue-white deck is, say the deck to beat the standard coming out, would this card, because of the Gear Hulks, just be too good? That's the thing. It's just like they gave us another card in a blue card that, yeah, you draw cards, but it's cost 4. It's a blue and 3 colorless. And
I'm gonna pull that up really quick. Nope, not contingency plan. Excuse me. Boom. We were actually talking about this earlier. Just trying to remember exactly what it is. Well, we're gonna get to some other cards as we pass them, so bear with us.
oh, there we go. Glimmer of Genius. The scry 2. Nope,
Oh,
over there.
Yep.
Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. You gain 2 energy. Now, okay, it's a good draw spell. You scry 2 before you draw, so I mean you're getting an instant speed and breathe the bones without the life loss. But that's what blue was supposed to do in the first place. And not to mention, it's an instant. So if you have nothing else in your graveyard, Torrential Gearhulk can play this thing for free, and you get another scry 2, another draw 2, and if you use the energy for anything, you get 2 energy.
Energy. I personally want to see energy. I want to see it do big things. I haven't really brewed too many deck ideas. Obviously everybody has been talking about the Aetherwork combo deck with infinite energy, infinite spells, but I don't know if that's even going to be a possibility. So we'll have to see in the upcoming format. But I just think this card's just straight gas. He mentioned the scry too. Anytime you can scry before you draw, card's just good in my book.
Don't need lands? Okay, to the bottom. And then right next to it, a card that I didn't write down, but the Gear Seeker Serpent has affinity for artifacts.
It's a new affinity for artifacts.
The new It's a 5/6, and you can make it unblockable. But will this common see play in standard?
Oh, man. How cheap can we make artifacts? How many? We don't have any 0-drop artifacts that I can think of that are.
Sure you do. Bonesaw.
So we're playing that in the combo deck. What's Bonesaw really doing for us? Straight nothing. Like the vehicles that we talked about earlier, it does straight nothing.
Well, you asked what cheap artifacts were. You
Alright.
said they had to be
That's
good.
fair. I was thinking more of the puzzle knots. That's the answer that I wanted to see. The puzzle knots are all 2-drops. I was really hoping for some type of signet in this format, something that either color fixes, but of course Wizards just doesn't like to give us signet reprints from the original or having.
Nah, signets are way too good. It's
I think they'd just be value.
Do you remember what that format was like with signets?
Yes, it was amazing. That draft format was
Well,
amazing.
I'm not talking about draft form. I'm talking about standard form.
Dude, I played the ever-living F out of that format.
I don't know. It's like,
I loved it.
yeah,
That's just me.
but I don't know. It's like I think it just made it made the format a little too easy to play 3 colors. Now, with just having got through Constantar here, that's obviously not an issue anymore. But it's like Constantar here absolutely wrecked what the color pie was supposed to look like because Jeskai was splashing black. Abzan was just a powerhouse of a deck that, there's a reason that, Magic has colors is to separate and keep all these abilities off of each other. And when you can just build Abzan, I'll just splash this color because I need an answer to this metagame deck, and way too easy. So that's the problem with the signets. I don't see, I see the same problem as, okay, it's not as good as the color wheel and cons without a doubt, but it makes it so your 3-color Gearhulk decks are just a little too easy to pull off.
Hey, give me a solid mana base and let me play whatever color I want, and I'll show you a happy Magic player. Coming from
Really?
somebody that plays a format, my favorite format, Legacy, where I fetch any land I want anytime, doesn't matter the land I'm playing. Gimme in standard, baby. Let's go.
Okay, here's a little entertainment value for anybody who's watching. Do you remember 5-color control in standard?
Okay, that was a terror, and that should never ever happen again.
I played that deck till it left standard. You know
I
why?
hated that deck.
Do you know
With
why?
passion.
Because
Probably
it
the
was
best deck.
gas.
That deck was probably the best standard deck outside of like the busted ones. I mean, it wasn't busted; it was just straight good. But
Good?
the busted decks that I'm thinking of were Delver. You know, Delver was insane. Zombies a couple formats ago was just insane. Like things that you just don't want to play against. The 5-color deck was like, all right, everybody's playing 5 colors. Might as well, play every card that gives me the most value possible.
But there's a reason I played that deck in standard. 2 reasons. One, it was a fun deck to play. The fact that you could play all those cards together was just fantastic. And 2, it was the best deck in standard.
By far.
When you
By
could
far.
when you could play Cryptic Command with Plume Veil and Baneslayer Angel
Yep.
all together.
Cruel Ultimatum.
Cruel Ultimatum. It's like it was a 4-color deck with all double and triple casting cost color of mana, and it had no problems with mana.
You know the funny thing is, if you think about it, Cruel Ultimatum was what? Blue. I can't remember if it was triple black or triple red.
Yeah, I think it was triple red.
So it was 7 colored mana.
Yep.
Some combination of blue, red, black.
Blue,
And
black,
you're-
black,
and you're
red,
playing-
red, red.
And you're playing Cryptic Command, which is triple blue. You're
Yep.
playing Baneslayer Angel, which is double white. You're playing Plume Veil, which is triple blue or triple white, or any combination of the two. Like, come on. That's just insane. Give us a break.
Yeah, so I mean, granted, the Cygnus don't allow for that level of degen, but still, I don't want to. Like, I had fun playing the deck. I don't want to see it again. Those mirrors were absolute terrors. So, some of the one of the other cards for your uncommons and commons, Underhanded Designs, which you had up on the screen a few moments ago.
Since we're right next to the Glint Nest Crane, which is
Ooh,
also on our
yes.
list, I want to make sure that we touch on this one, because if there's any artifact deck out there, this card is going to be a staple in that. 2-drop, evasion, 1/3. It blocks. It maybe gets in a point or 2 of damage. Maybe it can put a little pressure on the planeswalkers that we're going to be touching on later. This card, there was an owl. I want to say there was a 2-drop owl that lets you like scry the top 4 card of your library or something along those lines.
Owl.
And that saw play.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if that saw play, this card probably going to see play of some kind.
But that's Scry though. This is a little different in the fact that you have to find an artifact to make it worthwhile. But what's an artifact in the new set? Gearhulks.
Yep.
Gearhulks for days are artifacts.
You just look at the artifacts right now. The first ones that come up are all the Gearhulks. Value. Like, I mean.
So I mean,
All right, we're going to talk about. Excuse me. Design.
So now, I had the idea for a blue-black artifact deck once, using some of the cards, the Glint Nest Crane, this card. Now, whenever you pay an extra 1 for your spells on top of it, it does add a significant cost to what you're trying to do with the deck. But just what this card can do in an artifact-driven deck, I see it adding a lot of value.
Excuse me for a second. Alright, so whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So we have seen in previous standard formats that gaining a life and causing your opponent to lose a life is very, very strong. We were talking about the zombie deck earlier with the 2-drop that, caused the same thing to happen. And in this most recent format, there was another 2-drop that also did the same thing.
Oh,
I'm blanking on the
Relentless
names.
Dead. The Relentless Dead, whenever I believe a zombie went to the graveyard, you could pay a black and get the. Bring it up.
I'm gonna have to look it up, guys. bear with me. So what set was that from? So it was in
Just
the.
Relentless said it was Shadows over Innistrad.
No, that's not what I'm thinking of, but we'll pull it up. We're thinking of any 2 drops. So Relentless Dead is a little bit different. So whenever Relentless dies, you may pay black if you do return it to your owner's hand. It was in the Collected Company deck with, it's basically black-green bright. So let's see.
Now you definitely have me confused.
I'm just gonna pull this deck up because this is something that I actually played in Standard. This was a deck for a little while. Thank you, Zombie Cutthroat. Welcome back. You are an ally. You are an ally.
Zulapor Cutthroat.
Whatever I said, I'm gonna stick with that name because it's much better.
Zombie Cutthroat?
Yeah, Zombie Cutthroat. So this is a deck that I played for a little while when I first got back into Standard. It's okay. I originally thought that this Rights card allowed you to tap an untapped creature. So I think I killed my opponent on turn 3, going completely busted, casting like 3 Collected Companies in the same turn. And every one of those got more value, and I was able to tap that for mana. Unfortunately, it doesn't give your creatures haste, so I cheated my way to a victory, but we figured it out.
I got good news for you. Zulapor Cutthroat's still going to be in Standard.
Oh, baby. Hey, pair that along with more creatures, more artifact creatures.
Alright, so let's get to my favorite area of absolutely everything in Magic, green.
Okay, so
Arborback Stomp.
I'm going to talk about Arborback Stomper for a second, but underhand design, if any artifact deck, if it needs something, it'll play this card.
And, not to mention, we talked about this earlier, Dromoka's Command has left the format, folks. You can play underhanded designs, and it will not get absolutely destroyed by Dromoka's Command for free, basically.
Thank you, Arborback Stomper. You are no Thragtusk, but you are trying your best. You are trying your best.
Now, it doesn't leave a token behind when it dies. That's really what made Thragtusk a huge threat. But if there's fast decks out there, I can see this really being a player in any kind of green deck. Not to mention, if you do a band control deck, if the mana base actually can support it, Eldrazi Displacer yet again can flash this thing for 5 more life.
Like I said, we were supposed to leave up Eldrazi Displacer because we were going to touch on it quite a bit. Let's go back to that. Card just does work.
So many come into play abilities, and Eldrazi Displacer, again, you have to find a way to get the colorless mana, but if it's an easy inclusion, cards like Arborback Stomper just are pure value.
So Mike was just talking about his favorite color. My favorite color is blue, and we only have 1 green card on this list. Thank God, because don't get me wrong, I've played a lot of green in Standard. I've played red-green ramp decks as far back as before, when Valakut was first a thing, before Primeval Titan was even a thing, before it was even a thought process on my mind, before it was spoiled. But this card, it's going to compete with, some of the other Gear Hulks. What happens if you play this on turn 5, you gain 5 life, they play like the Black Gear Hulk the next turn, they just kill your guy for free. Or they play...
well, if they play Black Gear Hulk, they're killing your guy regardless of what it is.
Yes.
So, at that point, yeah, okay, it's not a Gear Hulk. It's not a green Gear Hulk.
Yeah, that's why it's an uncommon.
But it's a stopgap. It's a stopgap for fast decks. And not only that, is this type of card that it sees main deck play, but if you're going against a pure control deck, I don't think you're going to leave this in. You're gonna bring in something that's going to be a little bit more resistant to control.
So if we think about it, if we go Arborback Stomper, which is a 5/4 trample, and we combine that with the Gear Hulk, which is the more expensive Gear Hulk, which one would you rather play?
Oh,
They both have trample.
Gear
One
Hulk all
gains
day.
life, one distributes counters. You could play both. You gain 5 life 1 turn. They say they have nothing better to do on their turn. They Noxious Gear Hulk your lovely 5/4, and then you just get them with playing an 8/8.
But see, here's the thing, and this is something I'll touch on later, but the Venerous Gearhulk, a lot of people took this as one of the best cards coming out, or one of the best Gearhulks coming out in Standard. I don't think it's true. I honestly think that as far as the Gearhulks rank, the blue one is top of the list, followed by Noxious Gearhulk, the black one. The Venerous Gearhulk. If there's a control deck, especially with decks that are running Fumigate, Venerous Gearhulk just dies like any other creature. It still gets Skywhaler shot like any other creature. And granted, you can divvy up the counters, if you have multiple creatures on the board, but in the end, it's just a big creature. And we saw Wolfear Silverheart, huge creature in Standard, saw little to no play.
Ooh, careful with that, because that was the Restoration Angel format as well.
It was.
So they Restoration Angel back their Silverheart, paired it with a different dude, most likely the Angel, and just they were able to get quite a bit of value out of that card.
But it didn't see near the amount of play that it should have for what it did. When it sold down with creatures, it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
But it created huge stats on
it. Gave +5/+5 or something like that.
+4/+4 to itself and the creature it sold on with.
Yep, so it was an 8/8 and a minimum of a 5/5.
Yes. Now, granted, these counters stay around, when this creature leaves play.
That's fair.
But if this is the only creature you're playing, you put an 8/8 out there, they just answer this, and the creature is done. It's just, I like the green Gearhulk. I'm a big fan of green strategies in general. Anybody who knows how I play love green, but I don't see this card being as good as some people told it to be.
Alright, so we're going to touch on some multicolored cards now, switch gears a little bit. We went through some of the monocolored cards, and now we're going to touch base on multicolored. So Mike thinks a specific card that's on the screen right now. Can you guys pick it? Which card's going to see play? Mike seems to think one card in particular might be good, and I want to give him a chance.
Drumroll. It's not Cloud Blazer. Counterban Kingpin. 1/4 lifelink. When an artifact enters the battlefield, under your control, you scry one. It's a decent creature for the stats, and a blue-black artifact deck with underhanded designs. The scry ability, I see this card doing work. Cloud Blazer, yeah, it has impressive stats for everything it does. Eldrazi's Displacer again, can flash it out, but this Contraband Kingpin just slows the game down, and you can even make a Esper artifact deck and just shoehorn in all 3 colors of Gearhulks.
Alright, what are my thoughts on this one? Yes, it has good stats. It pairs very well with the underhanded designs, as he said. I'm just going to read its flavor text and possibly leave it at that. Don't waste my time with trifles. Do I want to go past that? Bring me works of art, and I will make you rich. So, is he bringing... Is this... I feel like this is wasting my time a little bit.
Are you trying to flavor fail this card?
Yes. I like the flavor, but let's be honest. What artifacts are we doing here? I just gotta see it. I gotta play with the set a little bit. Artifacts to me, never really been my forte. I've never played any of them in Modern. I do like the fact that it's a 2-drop, so it gives you something to do in an artifact deck, because you're probably going to follow it up with a 3-drop, maybe like Filgry, Familiar, which we're going to touch on in a little bit. If I had to pick one card that I thought was going to be good in multicolor, I would probably go with this Planeswalker here, Dovin Baan.
But we're just doing commons and uncommons.
Yeah, but Contraband Kingpin.
Planeswalker, leave that for later.
Alright, play him. Yeah. Play him somewhere other than constructed. Let's play him in draft, where you can build a deck around him. Play him in draft. How about Cloud Blazer over this guy all day? I'll play Cloud Blazer over the Contraband Kingpin.
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Displacer makes it a little bit better, but it's 5 mana for a 2/2. Okay, everybody wants this to be a new Mull Drifter. What did Mull Drifter have that this card does not have?
Mull Drifter had Evoke, which means it cost 3 mana and you got the cards immediately. That was also in a format where you had Momentary Blink, where for 5 mana you could get the 2 cards, flashback the blink or play it for its cost or what have you. get the creature, do some other things with your momentary blink, beat off a little bit, throw it in the air, catch it, draw some cards, gain some life, what have you. But this card just it costs 2 colors. It's a flyer. Mull Drifter had a single color cost, and you had options. You could play it on turn 5 if you wanted to, if you needed the body. You could play it on turn 3 to get more lands. You could just let it go to the graveyard. You just had more options. This card as a 5-drop, I'm gonna give it the play me in limited, not in standard.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm going back to is, you think back to the old standard and you had cards like Momentary Blank, which is fantastic in that environment. You didn't often play Mull Drifter for its full casting cost. You just let it die, go to yard, so you can just cycle it and draw 2 cards. I mean, so many times you were never casting it for its 5 mana.
Okay, so we're gonna look at another card called Unlicensed Disintegration.
Our delve into black red.
Oof, I forgot about this card. Wow.
Yeah, this you wanted to see artifacts and taking their game. This is why I say Contraband Kingpin also is there might be a Grixis artifact deck out there. Contraband Kingpin, this card again with the Gearhulks, it might see play. I as far as just a pure black red beat deck goes, it's still not bad. It's still 1 casting cost above the Terminate, and that's if you control an artifact, you get the upside. If not, it's still a kill spell.
The problem that I see with this card that I'm thinking of right now is that you were just talking about a Grixis control deck. If you cut out that red, your blue-black, you have murder. So is this murder 5 through 8? Or are you going to play 2 murders in this card? I mean, is the extra 3 damage really worth it? Are you actually going to be playing artifacts sometimes? I mean, I'd stand back if I were you.
Well, this is the type of card that you have to look at. You have to look at what decks are going to be in the format. We'll go through some of our ideas later as far as what we think will be, coming out. But there's one card that's not seeing a terrific lot of play, but I think might see some kind of play. That's Corrupted Graphstone from Shadows over Innistrad. Granted, you have to have a card in the graveyard to get colored mana off of it, but it's an artifact. Gives you ramp in control decks. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not seeing a whole lot of play now, but maybe, just maybe, if it's a Grixis control deck with Gearhulks, Gleness, Crane, this is the type of card that's going to ramp you there. Just that turn sooner on that Gearhulk, and it makes a huge difference.
What's really interesting, and I'm glad you touched on Corrupted Graphstone, because that's a card when I initially came back to Standard and I was looking for ramp cards, and I was playing the green-red Eldrazi ramp, and I looked at this card and I thought to myself, why are we not playing this card? This card, it just, it's a ramp card. It seems really good to me.
Well, it comes in the battlefield tap. That's which, granted, any ramp that you normally do is going to put the land in the battlefield tap. This, it just, I don't know, people just didn't get on it as much as some cards they could. Now with a lot of Delirium decks, yeah, I can see this card seeing play. The reason I say this for a control deck is because you're gonna have cards in the graveyard probably sooner than later, and if you're going for a 3-color deck, I think it just fixes for what you want to do. It's not the end all of ramp, but in control decks that don't have access to it, aside from Pilgrim's Eye, it might be what you need.
Corrupted Graphstone definitely in control. Any other deck would rather, I'm thinking more of a Delirium style deck, because that's something that I'm more familiar with. I'm thinking more of the other 2-drop that gives you colorless mana, which is...
Which card?
The 2-drop that gives you colorless mana, that's a 0/1.
Oh, the Hedron Crawler.
Thank you. Hedron Crawler. If you're going to run a Delirium style, I would run Hedron Crawler. It gives you 1 more Delirium. obviously it's an artifact creature, so something to think about. But I could see this card seeing play. So thank you for reminding me of that card. So unlicensed disintegration, yes, it's going to see play. People are going to try it. It has a lot of hype behind it. Oops. And it's going to go away just like that. It'll see play as long as it's in standard, as long as there's a red, red black deck. It's in the right colors. I think the red Gearhulk, I mean, we've beaten that kind of idea to death of Gearhulks, Gearhulks, Gearhulks. We say it every other second, but I think this card's just going to be good.
Some of the best cards in the set coming out, aside from Planeswalkers, Gearhulks.
They are mythics. They are very similar to the cycle that they had recently of like Primeval Titans. Titans just makes me want to like pound my head when I see these Gearhulks, and I immediately that's what I think of. I think of Titans and just their strength and how long we're going to see them in play.
So we'll keep that on the back burner. Let's go through these artifacts, some of these artifacts that we have here. Chief of the Foundry is coming back. Now, in a fast artifact deck, fast red artifact deck, could make a dent again. I mean, originally with the Thopters, I mean, you are losing Heron Backwalker. That is true. Is it possible that we still want this card around?
I think this is a great flavor pick. In an artifact deck, you should have this. We touched on Artifactor's Epiphany earlier. Disappointed that that's not coming back. But what low-cost artifacts are we playing to make this guy worth it? I mean, we're sitting right next to a Vomit Courier, which is a 1/1 haster. Yeah, maybe he's okay. But a lot of these artifacts, if you remember, a lot of them are vehicles. I mean, we can just scroll through them very briefly.
Oh, no, we don't got to go back to vehicles.
So, I feel like we're just going to lose a little bit.
I mean, in fairness, Chief Foundry can pilot a vehicle or crew a vehicle, and it pumps it. I mean, maybe. I think the card that you're going to want to see in an artifact deck, though. Let's scroll down to Foundry Inspector.
Oh yeah, this guy's gonna. If any card's gonna see play that we just touched on, it'll be Foundry Inspector.
So, 3 colorless for 3/2 artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
So we were just talking about artifacts. Making them cheaper. Who just doesn't want that value?
Makes your Skyship cheaper. Your Skyship Sovereign cheaper.
Makes all your puzzle knots cheaper if you're playing into those.
Nobody's going to play the puzzle knots.
Come on, man. It's right next to the Glass Burrows puzzle knot. That common, I think, is going to see play in some type of energy deck. It's going to see play in a control deck of some kind. Come on, man. You know you want to see it.
I think you're wrong.
Want to see it. I'm going to make it a thing, guys. Mark my words.
Okay.
The next time we're gonna have like Brewer's Hour at some point. We're gonna try different ideas and see if they pan out.
So you say the puzzle knots. I want to go for my shoo-in for an artifact.
So think about it this way: Foundry Inspector. You have multiples on the field. You play these glass blowers. Maybe you can get a storm count going. Maybe you can finish it off with. Maybe we're stretching Aetherworks Marvel. I mean, that's what I want to. That's the card I want to play, Aetherworks Marvel. But I'm gonna touch on that later.
No.
He's not feeling the love. All right, we're gonna talk about another card that, when it comes into play, gives you a little bit of value.
Okay, so Filigree Familiar, 3 colorless for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, gain 2 life. When it dies, draw a card. Now, here's the thing. This is the type of stopgap that you want to see in control decks. Again, talking about the black-blue artifact deck, this has a home. This pure role player has a home, and I honestly think this is going to see some standard play. Not a bunch. It's not going to be all over the place, but control decks, they want this kind of ability.
And I'm going to talk about something a little bit different than control decks, where the emerge decks, they can be a little controlling for the most part. They want to get out of the gate. They want to play their 1s and 2s. They want to follow it up with an 8-drop. just keep chaining those emerge spells. So this guy, as a 3-drop, it competes with Pilgrim's Eye a little bit. Some of the other cards that we touched on earlier, like the Pilgrim's Druid, or excuse me, the Primal Druid, the Pilgrim's Eye. But this guy, I guess it's just my legacy self where I love drawing cards. So if I was going to emerge into anything, I'd want to emerge into something that just lets me draw cards. So I
So
think this will definitely see play in some brew of some kind.
something to keep in the back of your mind, though, right? You do have Pilgrim's Eye. We now grant you it does get you that land that you need. But if you're only playing 2-color decks, it's like, how bad do you need that extra land when, like, especially if it's a control deck where you're drawing cards anyway?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this just fuels the fire. And pair this familiar with Wretched Griff, pair it with Elder Deep Fiend.
Mm-hmm.
When you're emerging cards like that onto the battlefield, I mean, this has, I'd say, a little bit better value than Pilgrim's Eye.
Needs to be seen. Yes, I completely agree with you. The emerge decks will definitely play this, but the emerge decks also want to be casting their big drops without having to sacrifice creatures. So Pilgrim's Eye fills a different role. Pilgrim's Eye is a little more versatile in the ramp style decks, but I could see this, in a control deck of some kind.
Well, now we're talking about two different decks here because I'm saying that as far as control decks
Yes.
go, you're saying emerge decks. So yes, Pilgrim's Eye in the emerge decks, yeah, you want to start nailing those land drops. But as far as pure control, that's where I think this card will see a home.
It's very interesting. Also, we were mostly talking about the Tamira emerge deck most recently, but this card powers out a turn 4. Oh god, I just completely blanked on the card. The 5/5, whatever comes into play, you get to make them discard a 4 or more or a 3 or less.
Thought-Knot Seer? Oh no, Mindbender. Yes, Descended Mindbender.
I'm gonna pull that card up really quick. I know we don't necessarily haven't talked about too many rares. We touched on a lot of different things, but
Well, while he's pulling it up,
Descended
and
Mindbender.
8 colorless for a 5/5. When you cast it, you get to see their hand, make them discard a card with converted mana cost 3 or less, and a card with converted mana cost 4 or more. It emerges for 2 black and 5 colorless.
So this is a potential turn 4 Descended Mindbender off of the 3-drop, as long as your color requirements work out. But the familiar is all colorless, so you were talking about artifact deck earlier, blue-black, maybe a Grixis. Maybe this is what you want to be doing. Maybe this is where maybe you do want the emerge copies in your deck.
Well,
I
now,
don't see why not.
Descended Mindbender is one of those cards that I can see bringing in a control matchup. You definitely don't want it in any kind of aggro matchup. This card is just dying in your hand against an aggro deck because anything they're going to play before this thing ever hits the battlefield. So that's why cards like Elder Deep Fiend, I see it seeing a little bit more play because you have that flash ability, you have that large body on the 5/6 that taps down some of their permanents. Again, this is the kind of card I see more of a sideboard player for a blue-black artifact deck, and basically get to hit their hand with it. It depends on how good control decks are in the format, how many people are going to be playing control decks. If somebody's trying to do a black-white control deck still, yes, this card, as long as they don't transgress your mind, is absolutely gonna wreck their hand.
I still want to see this card main deck. There's just too many good cards that are. I mean, yes, the aggro decks are gonna empty their hand, but they got to be playing like a 4-drop, and we're gonna go right into some of the rares and the elephants in the room, so to speak, of what we're gonna be. So if you're playing this on turn 4, that's before what comes down in this format. What red card that is on the ultimate hype train right now?
Oh, talking about the big red elephant?
I'm seeing 2 big red elephants right now, and I think one is about a full paycheck's worth of streaming.
Of playset anyway. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Chandra the Mind Sculptor?
I think honestly, at the price tag it's at right now, it could get to that point. Now let's read some of its abilities. So,
Before you do, Is this the new $80 Planeswalker in Standard?
No way. Never going to happen. This card is, first of all, red, which means it's not going to see play in any other format other than Standard. I'm gonna say it. This will not see play in any other format. I'm saying it right now.
Ooh, that's
Mark my words. It will not see play in any other format.
that's a brave man right there.
I like my Jace's too much. You know, maybe Modern plays it, but Nahiri, like you have Nahiri as your 4-drop, which just ends the game. This card does not end the game in. No, this just doesn't end the game quick enough.
Okay, so let's go through what it does first. Let's would you like to read the abilities?
All right, so he costs 2 red. She comes. She.
She.
Okay, so it comes into play with 4 loyalty. It says +1. You exile a top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent. So that first ability, it's great any other time that's not the turn that you play the card.
No, it's still great the turn you play it, because you're dealing 2 damage to them.
You're dealing 2 damage. Who cares?
10% of their life total. It's not a small advantage.
10%. I would rather just. I don't know. Like I've always loved the idea of pretty much all of the Chandras let you see the top card of your library and allow you to do something with it, whether it's play it. Most of them just let you play it and then it either gets exiled. Most of the time it'll get exiled, but that extra 2 points of damage, does it really make it any better than some of the other Chandras? Begs the question. Its price tag puts it above more any other Chandra, even remotely close.
But unlike the old challenges, you had the 0 to get that ability. This is a +1 that allows you to keep growing Chandra towards the ultimate. But we'll get to that in a minute.
All right, so it's other +1 mana ramp. We beat the Gear Hulks to death. This one says +1, add 2 red to your mana pool. What are we ramping into?
Well, here's the thing. With the +1 ability on the mana, you play Chandra, and the whole part of playing Planeswalkers is you have to have a way to protect your Planeswalkers so they stay on the battlefield. That's your main objective. Doesn't matter which Planeswalker it is, you paid the mana for it, you want to stick around. The 2 red ability, it allows you to just cast that removal spell that gets one of their creatures off the board. It allows you to, protect Chandra a little bit. It's just, I think it's good for what the ability does. Puts her up to 5, makes her a little harder to kill, and not to mention, once you pass a turn, if this thing stays in play, turn 5 you're going to have access to 7 mana. That's no small feat.
And 7 mana on the Gear Hulks. Kind of want to just like hit my paper to my face every time I say Gear Hulk. But yeah, you can ramp into that as early as turn 5, possibly even turn 4 if you build your deck correctly. So, all right, its next ability. I was talking to one of my buddies and I said Chandra protects herself. So she protects herself in a little bit different way. When she comes into the battlefield, 4 loyalty, -3 deals 4 damage to target creature. So that puts her down to 1 loyalty. I mean, it's not going to protect her against an aggressive deck, but maybe a more controlling deck, maybe it will protect her. Maybe it does kill their 1 creature and it sticks around long enough.
I don't know. Dropping her to 1 loyalty, it makes it very easy for a Thopter or a Servo token just to get in there and pick her off. I can't get behind the dealing 4 damage at the turn she comes into play. Now, if there's their only creature, they have no other haste. Okay, maybe, but I think you're using the other abilities to pump her up and try to make them kill her instead of doing it for them.
So now we are playing Angel of Invention or whatever. So we are playing that card to get Fabricate tokens. So, that's something we didn't really touch on very much.
Yes. I mean, I'm still out on Angel of Invention. I still say it's not going to see play.
That's fair.
It has the Anthem effect, Glorious Anthem, on a creature. It has a lot of abilities, but I think it's just going to get outclassed by way too much in Standard right now. I don't see it being a huge player in Standard. I don't think the tokens it creates, making that army, I don't think it's that huge of an advantage. unless you're Eldrazi displacing the thing over and over again.
Hey, what card have we talked about a million times other than the Gear Hulks? Eldrazi displays your baby.
Yeah,
It works with the Gear Hulks. What can I say?
come to play abilities.
All right, so let's talk about her ultimate now. So,
Oh, let me take this.
all right,
Okay.
Is this gonna win the game?
Let me read this carefully. -7. You get an emblem. Whenever you cast a spell, the emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player. A spell. Anything.
So my first question is: are emblems colorless? And B, is 5 damage enough? Is 5 damage enough?
Well, here's the thing. When you're creating an emblem with Chandra, I'm thinking if you haven't won already, you're gonna be winning real fast after. Any kind of red deck normally does a lot of damage to them real fast, and maybe in some kind of control deck, you might not get there that fast. But again, by the time the ultimate comes off, I mean, you cast 1 or 2 spells. Let's face it, your Lava Axe them straight to the head, 10 from damage. Game's over.
Now, we were talking about it being an $80 card. I just want to double check what it's at currently.
I believe it's at 50.
What's it called?
Fire,
Something outrage.
Tortured Defiance.
Ah, close enough. Torch. You would think that the new cards would be the first ones to pop up. Okay, so sold out is $59.99.
This is true.
Plus, all right, over under, it'll be $80 at some point. Over under.
Now, I know I'm the one who brought this up. I'm going to take the under. I as much as I think this card is just a powerhouse in standard, I don't know. It depends on what role she's going to fill. If it's just a green red beat deck, I don't see it doing that much. I mean, it definitely has advantages, but if it finds its home into some Grixis control abomination that it absolutely will just be a powerhouse in, yeah, it's gonna keep out there on the price tag. Everybody's gonna want 3, 4, and it's just gonna power decks. It literally is gonna be the engine that drives an entire deck.
So I'm also going to take the under as well. And the reason for that is the last $80 Planeswalker we had in Standard was Jace Prodigy, which is currently rotating out.
Mm-hmm.
And that card came down on turn 2, let you draw cards, put cards in your graveyard that you were able to flash back later, did a lot more than I feel like this card does. I'm definitely taking the under. I could definitely see this card being a $30 card for a while. $30 to $40 for a while until more boxes are opened, more of the set is opened. So that's my thought process.
Unless this card doesn't see play, which is not going to happen.
Yeah, this card definitely going to see play.
Yeah, I firmly believe you will not be able to buy these for under 50.
Wow.
I want to say for the next 2 months at least.
That's fair.
I don't see it.
If it's in the first weekend, if it's in any deck, it'll hold value. Actually, it'll go up. If it's in any deck, it'll go up.
Oh yeah, especially if it's a 3-4 of one of the big events.
God.
If this hits the top 8 list,
Oh yeah.
oh forget it. Especially if it's in 3 or 4 decks in the top 8. Oh, this $50, you'll wish you paid that.
It's going to be sold out for a long time if that's the case. As a mythic in a set that just came out, yeah, it's going to be very difficult. Okay, so I'm going to tap out for a second and just take the rest of them.
Alright, so while Mike's away, just talk a little bit about the Gear Hulks. When it comes to ranking the Gear Hulks, you want to obviously think the color you play the most that's going to be the best Gear Hulk. I try to use an objective view when it comes down to quantifying how they're going to be used in Standard. By far, let's get it out of the way. One of the worst ones is Combustible Gear Hulk. It's a big body, it has first strike, does a lot, but anytime you give your opponent a choice on what to do, usually that's a bad thing. I yeah, the drawing cards is nice, but if you're playing against a control deck, first of all, it has to resolve. A lot of control decks, there may not be good counter spells in standard, but we'll see what happens with that. I have my own theories on that. We'll get around to that. As far as the rest of the four Gear Hulks go, I want to say top to bottom, I think your blue Gear Hulk is just going to be just the ace card in standard. Just the fact that it's 5/6 flash, you know, gets back, can flash back one of your blue instants, or actually any instant, for free. I think it'll just be a powerhouse for what it does. I was just going over to Gear Hulks, and I already came down that combustible Gear Hulk is going to be by far the worst one. Um, it's definitely number 5 on the list. And then I went straight to the top. I said Torrential Gear Hulk, by far number 1. I don't think it's even close. The flash ability, get back that instant without paying its mana cost. I just think this card is going to see play everywhere. Every blue deck that's not an aggro deck, not like a blue red aggro deck. I think this card is going to be just the game winner.
If I had to pick my top 5, I would go Torrential Gear Hulk, Noxious Gear Hulk, tied. I really wish they didn't give Flash to the Blue Gear Hulk. We've already had Snapcaster Mage in Standard, and we saw how that worked out. This card, not saying it's Snapcaster Mage quality, but man, let's be honest. It's a body, does a lot of work. It's going to bring back a counterspell. It's going to bring back a murder. It's going to bring back God knows what.
Well, the thing to remember about Torrential Gear Hulk is, compared to Snapcaster Mage, Snapcaster, you had to pay for that stuff.
Sure.
You had to pay to recast that instant. Torrential Gear Hulk, you don't have to pay, which, alright, makes your X spells terrifically worse, but any card that you don't have to pay to get a value out of, that's why I said Torrential Gear Hulk is going to be the slam, hands down, number 1 Gear Hulk in Standard. I was going down the list, Torrential Gear Hulk, my number 1. Noxious Gear Hulk, definitely number 2. It's I know people are high on the green one, but at the end of the day, it simply is just a creature. It has a lot of abilities. The distributing the 4 counters is real, but Noxious Gear Hulk, you're gaining life. I mean, it's a 5/4 menace that you're killing a creature and gaining life. Let's look back at an old card, very, very old, Necrotal, when it was in Standard. That card saw play.
You read my mind. I was literally thinking the same card I was going to bring up.
And when you flash that card, it was a 2/1. It was a 2/1 for 4 mana. This is a 5/4 with Menace for 6 mana. 2 more mana with a lot larger body. The Torrential Gear Hulk, I want to call this Snapcaster Gear Hulk 2.5, because that's basically the stats on this thing. It's 2.5 the power, and you get the flashback on the instant for free. I by far, it's just like my most favorite one. Then the green Gear Hulk, the white, those are interchangeable. I see the white Gear Hulk doing some work. He may take number 3 compared to the green. We have to see where this all lies. Anytime I was bringing up the point with the red Gear Hulk, anytime you give your opponent a choice, it's usually worse for you than actually just getting the choice yourself. Cataclysmic Gear Hulk, it's
Same thing.
It's no tragic arrogance.
And unfortunately, like you just mentioned, giving people choices makes it that much more powerful. You play Combustible Gear Hulk, you're behind. Okay? So you just, whatever. You took a bunch of damage, they played a 6/6, you still swing through them, kill them, whatever. The Cataclysmic Gear Hulk, you're giving your opponent choices. Of course they're going to pick their best creatures. Whereas Tragic Arrogance, you were able to just blow them out.
You left them with a 1/1 Elvish Visionary.
You're like, hey, is that a 1/1 token? Yeah, why? Yeah, that's your only creature.
And then if it was a Thopter token, it was even better, because that was their artifact and creature.
Yeah. So, if I had to pick my choice, definitely going to go blue-black, obviously top 2. I could see them going hand in hand. I could see Noxious Gear Hulk being the control finisher. because it has menace. It kills dude. It clears its own way. It gains you life in a control deck. It does almost everything you want. It's a body. It attacks through dudes. Even kills dudes. Um, and I'm just gonna group. I'm gonna group the red, white, and green all together. In the
All
right
time
deck,
for three?
they just do so much weird stuff. Like the 6/6 has first strike, so I think just that alone, the first strike, just is better than this trample. The vigilance I feel like on the white is better than the trample. I mean, yes, you're distributing counters and it's an 8/8 trample, but if I had to pick, just abilities flat out with nothing else, I would rather have a 4/5 vigilance than a 8/8 trample most of the time. I know that sounds very stupid, but that's just, I mean, typically how I like to run.
So, living the ultimate dream. We've mentioned Eldrazi Displacer 100 times already. Probably just in the past 5 minutes alone. Your red white Gearhulk deck with Eldrazi Displacer.
Let's do it.
When you start displacing combustible Gearhulk,
Let's do it.
how good is that?
God, how many times have we said value so far? And I just want to interrupt
At least
real quick and say, hi Rob and hi Milky Toast. Welcome back, guys. So combustible Gearhulk with God, Indulgence Displacer. How many? I guess my question is, how many times do you have to bounce it before your opponent just say, "Oh God, am I just gonna die? Am I just gonna straight die if I just let them deal more damage to me, or do I just let them start drawing cards?" I mean, at a certain point, maybe the first activation they take a bit of damage because they're like, "Nah, this thing's not gonna kill me." But say you take 5 to the dome, or even 3 damage to the dome. Then you're dealing with a 6/6 first strike. That, in a nutshell, is going to race almost anything that other people are doing in this format.
Well, see, getting back to that also, the red white, I don't know, I don't even want to say an artifact deck because I don't even think that's right. But if they're at a healthy, say 15 life total, you say, okay, combustible Gearhulk hits the field. Now, they're like, well, I don't want them to draw more cards because I have the advantage. You smash them for 7 life. Now they're at 8. You're facing down a 6/6 first strike. Next turn, you slam Eldrazi Displacer.
Mm-hmm.
You displace the Gearhulk after swinging with it.
Yep.
And now they're faced with that choice again.
Plays offense and defense if that's the case.
And it's just like you're just like, well, you're gonna let me draw 3 cards? Okay, you're at 8 life still. What are you drawing? That's gonna not be detrimental to their health total at that point in the game.
Yeah, they just wanna. I mean, that's such a tough decision. That's why I almost want to make Combustible Gearhulk. When I first saw it, I literally texted Mike and I said, "This card is good. Like this card is just absolutely busted." And I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna make it my third pick. Make my third pick. I know I just said red, white, and green are all tied, but I'm gonna go blue, black, red. I'm gonna go Grixis Control right in a row.
And there's the
Gearhulk specifically because of that interaction.
There's the Grixis Control deck.
Yep.
But I think it was literally 10 minutes after this card was spoiled, I get a text from Mike, be like, "Check this card out." I'm like,
"Yes."
And it was the Masterpiece version, which I didn't even realize at the time. I'm like, "Oh my God, that card's beautiful." I mean, just the artwork on it was amazing, and I'm like, "Wow, they really went all out on this red Gearhulk for some reason." And it's like, then I read the abilities. I'm like, "Holy hell!" So.
What's funny is they spoiled the first 4, the Cataclysmic, the Torrential, the Noxious, and the Verdurous, whatever. And they were waiting on the red one, so I think it was for the Masters, the Master Spheres that they wanted to start with. But once that was printed, we were discussing what it might be, like red ability. It probably was going to have pump of some kind, or who knows what ability, maybe haste. We were thinking if it was a 6/6 haste or something like that, it would be really good. So first strike, slightly on par, but I'd rather have a 6/6 haster, but still good. But its ability, I think, is very, very strong, for the points that we just mentioned.
I don't know, haste, as much as I wanted to be haste, it was too good, especially with the Verdurous Gearhulk. again, I wanted it to be haste, but when you're smashing turn 5 green Gearhulk into turn 6, red Gearhulk, that just would be way too good, I think, in that kind of setup.
So I feel like we've mentioned Gearhulks probably 100 times in this cast. So we're gonna talk about some other cards that we think are very very strong. Um, a list of cards. So.
Now, this is a card that caught my eye for a blue-white control deck. It was Authority of the Councils. Creatures your opponents control, just your opponents, not you, enter the battlefield tap. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, you gain 1 life. Now, if you pair this with Fumigate, you're still gaining a lot of life. I mean, you're slowing them down. Any kind of fast deck. Now, this will definitely be a sideboard card. It's not gonna be a main deck unless the format gears itself to being like a fast, like servo thopter kind of format, which I don't see initially. I think the Gearhulks are going to drive the format for a while, and then somebody's going to try to beat the Gearhulks.
You want to play Authority of Council and Control just because, I mean, a lot of it is the life gain. If you're a control deck, you want to have your opponent, not be able to play out their strategy linear. You don't want them to allow to have a linear strategy. You want to throw some kinks in the way. You want to try to do, you want to try to do throw some type of cog in their plan. And I feel like having them come to play tapped, where you can card seems man. So you want their creatures to come into play. So first of all, if they're doing like the crew mechanic, they can't just play a guy, crew their other guy, and get in.
Yep.
That's one thing. I mean, we already talked about crew where it's not very good. But secondly, it allows your guys, even yes, you're a controller, you're probably not playing very many creatures, but it allows your guys to get in for a little extra points of damage before you have to really start playing defense. So that's another upside. I think gaining a life, it's just a buffer. If you have multiple, say you play one of these turn 1, you play this turn 2, if you gain like 5 to 10 life throughout the game, that's huge. That gets you to your extra mana to play
Gearhulk?
Gearhulk, or I was actually thinking of Fumigate, actually.
Yeah.
Fumigate.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, Fumigate. We discussed it a bit earlier. I had it on the list, and again, when you're able to slow any control deck, when you're able to slow down your opponent and cast a Wrath of God, that's good enough. But a Wrath of God that gains you life for each creature you destroy, that's even better. I mean, how can you beat that?
So let's look at Fumigate real quick, and we have some questions in chat. So Trogdor, it says, but I think there's better things to do than having your creatures come into play tapped. So what are better things to do in a control deck than gain life off of your opponent playing creatures and fumigating away and gaining even more life when you destroy them?
Now it's definitely a cutesy kind of thing that you're gaining life, and gaining life only goes so far. That's without a doubt. Nobody ever won a game gaining life unless you played the Felidar Sovereign, which I tried in a clue deck with Graphnel,
Oh,
and just
you want to talk about gaining life, do you?
that just didn't work.
You want to talk about Aetherflux Reservoir?
Jumping a little bit ahead here, but sure.
Hey, you made your segue.
Okay, well, it's Flux Reservoir. Whenever you cast a quest artifact, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life. Aether Flux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. Okay, how can this go wrong? First of all,
You played on turn 4, so you're basically time walking yourself. You're not going to be able to win the turn you play it. So you're opening yourself up to them. You're probably going to be playing this in a control style deck. You can't play it in an aggressive style deck, obviously, for whatever for obvious reasons. But it has to be in a control deck. You have to play enough spells to make it worthwhile. So on turn 4, when you would normally have your counter removal up, you're playing this card.
yeah, I had it on the list, but I think it just makes the list for hot garbage.
garbage.
because you know 50 life. Let me tell you, I did the Graph Clue Stone deck with Felderwar Sovereign, and even just getting 40 life was when you're getting beat down. You even have a lifelinker 4/6 vigilance on the battlefield, and that barely makes a dent. And it's just like this card. Nobody's ever paying 50 life to deal 50 damage. It isn't happening.
I completely agree with Trogzor in chat. He says probably good in EDH. I completely agree.
Oh yeah.
Totally different format. You're starting at 40 life to begin with. Yeah, that's much, much different.
Ooh, from financial perspective, and which I enjoy on speculating on any foil Magic card, is this foil going to be spiked due to EDH?
Well, let's check that price right now and see where we're at. Aetherflux Reservoir.
Well, while he checks that price, I'll actually start talking about yet another artifact, the Metalwork Colossus. Actually, no, he's got it. Let's check this out.
Okay, it's a $4 fuller, obviously sold out.
EDH and full drive again, huh?
Also, if you play instants and responds to them with more instants, you gain way more. Yes,
Yes.
I understand that. And the zero cost artifact deck seems kind of meh.
Well,
at best.
the thing is, with this card, what a lot of people may or may not realize off the start is, it's once you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. So if you cast 2 spells in 1 turn, you're gaining 3 life off of this thing. It's again, I think it's just one of those niche kind of combos. EDH, you're going to see a lot more with this, this style of card. Yeah, if somebody makes this deck in standard, I'll be severely shocked.
There's apparently already in an article on Channel Fireball from Frank Hartson, who is the German juggernaut. At least I think he's German. I can't remember. I used to watch him way back in the day. He's a very good player. He theory crafts, and it really goes into the mathematics behind, whether you'll get this card in turn 1, turn 2. He does a lot of iterations, runs a lot of computer program simulations to see how you should build your decks. His articles are great. You should read them if you haven't already. But this card, let's try to save it for EDH. If you're going to be storming in standard, good luck. It might work. I don't know.
So let's go to one of my little known cards on this list. Let's go to Padim, Council of Innovation. It's a blue card. For a blue 3 colorless.
I know what you're talking about.
For a 1/4, the Dalkin Artificer.
Can you say EDH again?
I say standard.
Ooh, all right.
Because artifacts you control have hexproof. Need I say it again? Gearhulks. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact with the highest converted mana cost or tied for the highest converted mana cost, draw a card. Now this card in and of itself, not a showstopper. What is a showstopper? If you're a black blue artifact deck, you will constantly be drawing cards off of this. There's no way anybody's gonna have an artifact that outranks yours unless they have a Gearhulk. But if you're playing black-blue, you're going to have answers to their Gearhulks. There's just no way that Gearhulk is staying on the battlefield. You're going to, as long as they don't grasp Darkness this or otherwise somehow get rid of it, you're going to be drawing card after card off this card alone.
But this is a 4-drop. I wish this itself had hexproof. This would be...
Oh, it would be too good. You would have to fumigate.
At that point.
Yeah, no, fumigate would be your only answer at that point. I think that would just lock out the game.
So somebody in chat just mentioned the flavor text, which has impressed me. I also like that flavor text a lot. Just going off of what Mike was saying, yeah, you're probably going to be drawing more cards. Could we see a control artifact deck? Maybe. Could this see play in the Aether Flux Reservoir deck, where you're comboing, trying to draw enough cards?
No, I think Aether Flux Reservoir is still too much for this style of deck. I mean, you want like your Filigree Familiar. I'm just gonna call it Filigree Fox because I'm done with the Familiar. Filigree Fox, it powers you into this style of card, and you're getting your artifacts into play. You know, it's just I don't know. It's just for me this card. Okay, definitely EDH. I'm not gonna lie. This card foil EDH is even in a blue artifact deck, this could be your general. And I don't know a ton about EDH, but somebody will probably try to make this work.
What about when Tezzeret gets spoiled in the next set?
Oh, Black Luke.
Here we go.
Sing me a song.
Alright, so moving down the list, we're going to talk about some of the other very, very good cards. So I actually, when we were talking about this earlier, I passed on what we were about to talk about. So that is the new Nissa. So
the Vital Force.
Vital Force indeed. So we'll read some of her abilities. She's a 5-drop. She comes to play with 5 loyalty. So that's really strong just to start. Her first ability, untap target land you control. Until your next turn, it becomes a 5/5 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. So first of all, she protects herself.
Yep. By far, anything a Planeswalker does to protect herself, it's one of the key mechanics. I mean,
5/5 no less.
Yeah, no, it's you're not getting rid of these.
Yes.
Yeah, and then not to mention, I want to jump to the ultimate already, but let's hit the minus one.
So for -3, okay. Remember, she comes into play with 5 counters. Okay. She goes to -3. She still has 2. Maybe she survives another turn if you use it. But return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. What are you returning?
Regrowth on a Planeswalker?
Gearhulks. You're probably bringing those back. You're probably playing Grapple, right, with this card. So maybe your graveyard's full, maybe your graveyard's not. But it's just good.
What if you bring back a Fall Liliana with this card?
Liliana.
No, Fall Liliana.
Oh.
Liliana, the new Liliana, if they manage to kill it, they waste all that time and effort trying to kill that Liliana. You play this, -2, you get back the Liliana. Now they have to kill this, and you still have the Liliana.
That's a good point. Tireless Tracker is another card that could get brought back with this. That will most likely die if you play it early. That's a good point, too.
Well, not only that, let's look at the -3 from this perspective. You have Tireless Tracker in play. Say, just for argument's sake, they don't kill it. You slam this with Vital Force. You get back that Evolving Wilds out of your graveyard. You're getting 2 more clue tokens.
Mm-hmm.
But the emblem ability, the reason you +1 to begin with and put this up to 6 loyalty. Let's go right into this, because this is what made me jump all over this card and say, well, we're losing one Nissa, but we're gaining another. And when this has 6 loyalty, you -6, you get an emblem. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Emblems cannot be removed. You slam this down, plus it, protect it, minus it, you have a card draw engine in green.
She does a lot of things. We first of all touched on the protecting herself, bringing cards back, eventually drawing you cards, and I can't think of any Planeswalker that you could ultimate the turn after you play it. I can't think of a single one, other than the humans Planeswalkers.
Gideon's the only one that
you can't even ultimate.
Yeah, Gideon's the only one that really comes to mind. Yeah, you can ultimate the turn it comes into play, but if you plus it and then leave for the next turn, you can actually minus them without dying.
That's actually a really good point, Trogzor, because let's think about it. If there was more ramp in this format, maybe this card would be busted, because she ults the turn after she comes into play. So if we had Nissa's Pilgrimage, so we're casting Nissa's Pilgrimage on turn 3.
Okay. Turn 4, Nissa's Vital Force.
Turn 4 this. Turn 5, it's ultimating, and then we play even more.
More lands off in this Pilgrimage.
Man, is Garrett coming in the next set? Because I think these guys need to have a chat, and they want to have something going on.
A little flashback to the old Garrick, the black-green Garrick from M15. Ooh, that would be that would be awesome in this.
Maybe I want to buy some Nissas. Let's check this out.
Nissa right now, it's going for a low price of $25.
They were pre-selling at $19.99, so if you got on board.
Yeah, I mean, work out a few trades with friends, finagle them a bit. Maybe you can get them for $20, and I don't know. I think in some kind of green stomp deck, if again, this is the type of card that you have to see what deck it's going to fit in. If it's fit in like a three-color abomination that just makes this card gas and you just continue drawing card after card, this card is going to be amazing. Any kind of teamer deck that just makes a draw engine and you get more Nisses into your hand, or even if you get Nissa and you play the 5-drop Jace from Shadows over Innistrad, I mean, some kind of Planeswalker deck like that, it's so much value. And then the end game being your Emrakuls, your Elder Deep Fiends.
Maybe you want to be playing this in like a Sultai Ramp deck. That could work too. It'd be a little more control style. You want to play more lands. Going back to a Planeswalker that does ultimate the turn after you play it, we forgot about the 4-drop Garruk, the original one. It can overrun you the turn after, so thank you, Trogzor from chat.
Ooh.
That card obviously saw a lot of play. Being able to untap your lands, man, that's bringing me way back. The original Planeswalker set.
Yeah.
Brings me back.
Yeah, but the original Garruk, you had a minus to get a 3/3 beast, and then they made the 5-drop one, which was so much better.
And now we're untapping our lands and getting 5/5s the turn we cast it. Sorry, Garruk, Nissa's here to stay. And what's funny is Nissa's Vital Force is a $25 card. Chandra's a $60 card. I'd rather be playing Nissa Vital Force. I want to get on the green train, maybe. Green train.
But is Nissa going to get run over by Chandra because Chandra is just way too fast?
So Nissa's Vital Force, you play this on turn 5. It gets you to 5 counters. Your land immediately kills Chandra. Your land immediately kills Chandra.
This is true.
So let's just double check to make sure.
No, you're 100% right.
So the turn they plus it, you're getting in there and killing it.
That's a valid point. I did not even consider that at first when we were putting this list together.
She's about to say reality smash you.
Well, reality smasher in and of itself will just take out Chandra. So, that red white kind of smash, fast deck with Eldrazi, fast Eldrazi could be something that you see in the format.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about another Planeswalker.
Planeswalkers are always the gas of formats.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this. Let the chat correct me if I'm wrong. Dovin Bane.
Something close.
How do you say this?
I'm gonna go with Dovin Bane.
Okay.
For some reason, my German is. I'm actually
Is that German?
trying to learn it a little bit of. I'm thinking of like Bahn Bach, right? That's a German name. Maybe Swedish. Maybe Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I was gonna say more from the fantasy, make believe realm. Yeah. Until the end of time. All right, Dovin Bane. Until I actually hear anybody else say who actually knows how these cards are supposed to be pronounced. So let's go through this. Let's see if it actually has a home in blue-white control. So blue-white, 2 colorless, 3 loyalty when it enters the battlefield. Not really that impressive. +1 till end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets -3/-0, and its activated abilities cannot be activated. So going back, shuts down Eldrazi Displacer.
Yep.
But they still get the chance to respond though. So how good is this? How good is shutting down a creature with this +1 ability?
To be honest, the only creatures that I can think of that I'd want to be using their activated abilities are like Hedron Archive, Tireless Tracker. What other creatures? I mean, those are the 2 that come to my head very quickly. Other than that, I mean, you're not shutting down stuff like an Avacyn. You're not shutting down other creatures that could be attacking that we've talked about recently.
You're making Avacyn worse. But
really,
with the flash ability, it's not until after you get another turn. And usually, I don't know. It doesn't seem like Dovin protects himself that well.
To be honest, it does meet the criteria of protecting itself. How well it protects itself is an arguable point, but -3, -0 on turn 4, that I feel like that's enough to buy yourself a turn where you can untap and she's still around, or he's still around.
So let's take a look at the second ability here. -1. You gain 2 life and draw a card.
Can you say control?
Yeah,
Blue-white, control,
without a
control.
doubt. This is where I see this card fitting. Blue-white control. Um, how many are you playing in a blue-white control, though?
This kind of reminds me of Baby Jace from back in the day. His minus ability allowed him to draw a card. This gains you 2 life, so maybe it puts you ahead. But how many of these that you mentioned? Maybe you're playing 2? I mean, you could untap and play Fumigate after this card, so then you're allowed to, start accumulating value.
I'm going to say you're only playing 1, if that. And the reason I say this is because this card harkens back to another blue-white planeswalker that saw little to no play. We all know what it is, chat. Narset Transcend.
Yeah, one that's actually, isn't that going out of standard?
It is. It was in
It is no longer.
Dragons, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think that card saw any play.
It saw very limited play in any kind of Esper control deck.
And that was touted as a $50 planeswalker. Remember that, guys? When you're picking and choosing what you buy for the set.
Yeah, Dovin, its price point isn't going to keep. I see that being a $10 planeswalker before long. Narset just had, it didn't have a way to protect itself that was, terrifically worse. But the loyalty that Narset had for when it came in, +2 on the ability, you had to get, 4-drop planeswalker had 6 loyalty. That's a lot to get rid of. And then if they start, casting spells with rebound, that's where you really got into trouble. But that card still has such limited play. And here we have a card that does not the same thing, but it's the same casting cost, worse loyalty. Yeah, it protects itself a little bit better.
And the ultimate doesn't win the game. We haven't even talked about the ultimate yet.
Yeah, let's get to the
So the -7, you get an emblem with your opponents can't untap more than 2 permanents during their tap step. It doesn't win you the game.
It doesn't, but Static Orb is a hell of a ability on this emblem.
But it doesn't win the game.
So if you make an emblem with Dovin Bond, are you using the emblem or are you using the Masterpiece Static Orb?
Masterpiece Static Orb.
Yeah.
And that just went right over my head.
Yeah, one of the masterpieces in Kaladesh is Static Orb.
I wonder if they did that.
I don't know if they did it on purpose, but it's a funny little thing that they happen to have a masterpiece of Static Orb in the same set that they have Dovin Bond that provides that same sort of ability.
We haven't even talked about these yet.
Oh no, we'll get to these in a minute. But
Static Orb, there it is.
So are you gonna put the Static Orb up there and maybe put the Dovin Bond symbol above? Are you just gonna make it flashy for him? Be like, oh look it. Remember, this is the ability.
You're stretching a little bit. I'm gonna stop you before you go too crazy.
I think it's an interesting little touch. Just be like, it further be like,
it is very cool.
It'll further be like, you really can't win. You want to scoop now?
So going on to, we were just talking about colored, multicolored cards. Now we're going to go back to the artifacts, the fixed affinity artifacts in this new set.
So Metalwork Colossus, 11 casting cost, 10/10 Colossus construct actually. Costs X less to cast, where X is the total converted mana cost of non-creature. Remember that, non-creature artifacts you control. You can sacrifice 2 artifacts and return Metalwork Colossus from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, right off the bat, how many non-creature artifacts are you playing?
Vehicles.
But we already said vehicles are not going to be a thing.
You're playing all the vehicles in this deck.
Okay, so vehicles somehow making it into standard. Somehow. We don't know how, but somehow.
Unfortunately, the Gearhulks don't make this cheaper.
Yeah, again, non-creature artifacts. I mean, when you have stuff like Gearhulks, why are you playing vehicles?
That's a good point.
I mean, Metalwork Colossus, what's every other other Colossus of this magnitude always had that this one does not have?
Indestructibility.
Yep.
Thinking of Darksteel Colossus.
Yep. And just that missing.
Blightsteel Colossus.
Yeah.
Literally wins the game. One swing. Boop. Done.
Unless they have one blocker. Then they get one turn reprieve.
If it's a 1/1 though.
Yeah, well.
Insta dead.
Yeah. But
Sorry.
that being water on the bridge.
I'm gonna put this under the bust. It could be a thing, but
25-cent rare?
bulk 13-cent rare.
I was being generous. So I don't know. It depends on what other good non-artifact creatures we have. Well, before we get to the lands though,
You don't want to skip over that since we talked about it already.
no.
Right.
Let's just take a quick look at it. The Scotch Sovereign console flagship, a 5 casting cost 6/5 vehicle with flying, has crew 3. When it enters the battlefield, 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker and opponent controls. It doesn't hit players. Unfortunate.
Yes.
It does have synergy with Eldritch and Displacer, but is it good enough to see standard play?
We touched on this card already. It has great stats. It's a 5-drop, 6/5 flyer. But what are we crewing? What are we crewing to activate this guy? Every single turn, we have to crew something. Every single turn.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's impressive for what it does. It has a relatively cheap crew, but at the end of the day, you're paying 5 mana for something that does absolutely, or it does very, very little when it hits the battlefield.
And it comes into play, deals 3 damage. What are we killing? Maybe a tireless tracker for lucky. I'm gonna file it under bust, unfortunately.
Sounds good. EDH though.
EDH, I can see that. Seems good.
All right, so definitely some of the fast lands here. Auto include in any deck that's gonna play these colors.
Pain lands out, these in. I'm not saying they're gonna make as much of an impact, but they're gonna be good in not just standard, in other formats.
The problem with these lands though is they don't have the land type. They come into play tap. If you already have too many lands. Is it worse than pain lands?
I think they're worse than pain lands. I think a lot of times just paying, pain lands really only hurt you early in the game. Maybe they do 1 to 2 damage for the majority of them, unless you kind of get color screwed. I feel like I'd rather be playing pain lands than these, in standard at least. I want my lands to come to play untapped so that, I've played ramp decks in the past, so I want my mana to come in to play untapped so that on turn 5 through 10, I can do exactly what I need to do.
So now I defer to your expertise in Modern and Legacy. What for Modern? What decks are these going into?
All right, so definitely we'll start with the first one, Blooming Marsh.
Jund.
Black-green. Black-green is a very strange color type, so you don't need green mana ever on turn 1. So you still want to be playing Black Cleave Cliffs. You want to be able to bolt people or make them discard on turn 1 in Jund. So yes, this is going to see some play. I don't know what number, maybe 1. I still think Black Cleave Cliffs is better in Jund than this card. Well, I think this might be, let's look at them real quick. Could this be the worst one of all? I don't know.
Oh no, for Black-green Delirium in the current standard format, by far.
It'll see play in Abzan, because you definitely could run some mana dorks of some kind. Another deck that might run it is the Collected Company deck. Could run this because it wants to run 1-drops that tap for green. They also run some discard outlets. So
I apologize. You were still talking about Modern. Let's go back to standard.
Yeah, that's okay. So Modern's a very weird format. The blue-green for Modern specifically, the first one that comes to play or comes to mind is the Infect.
Yeah.
Of course they want this card. They don't have to take any damage. They're probably going to play some number of these, 2 to 4. Yeah, this card's going to be great for them.
So
I don't see why not.
What about your inspiring vantage from? Is that going into a Naya Zoo, or is that just they still want shocklands for that because they don't care about their life total and they want to
They
power out?
they want to be able to fetch all their colors, and having this the chance of this coming into play tapped on turn 4 could be the difference between casting 2 burn spells or casting a creature plus 2 burn spells and killing your opponent. You tend to run maybe like a Boros Charm and something else, so you want all your lands to be able to come into play untapped in a zoo deck. This is the idea of something coming into play tapped and choking yourself on your own resources is just not where you want to be. That life total is irrelevant if you're killing your opponent. If you're doing what your deck is designed to do, which is to get out there fast, I don't see the red-white one's going to see any play.
So your Spire Bluff Canal there is Splinter Twins sad that this land came out this late?
Yes, they wanted this, but Blue Red already has a lot of good options. They have Sulfur Falls, which is very strong.
Yep.
This is definitely going to see some amount of play. I'm just not sure exactly where. The first thing that I can think of is in Modern specifically. I don't think any of these lands will see play in Legacy at all, but in Modern specifically is the unfortunately twin. Oh, we miss you a little bit. It's probably the blue-red combo list with oh god, Pyromancer's Ascension. They'll probably play some number of these, maybe 2, because they don't mind as much if their lands come into play tapped past turn 3, because they should be winning on turn 3, turns 3 to 4. So they can kind of sort of plan their hand around it. Where if they just run 2 of these, they should be okay to play almost all of their spells. You just have to make sure they sequence properly. And we missed the black-white land.
I don't think we missed it as so much as it's for Modern.
It kind of goes hand in hand with the black-green land. What do you want to play? Black-white on turn 1. You have Path to Exile, yes, and black, which is discard. So the only decks that run black and white are basically the Abzan list, which are like Abzan Company.
And Esper. If there is an Esper shell, I'm not.
Yeah, the Esper list, but I think they want more blue-white than anything early in the games because you want to be able to cast your mana leaks on turn 2. Past that, they're fine with all their lands coming to play tap. So I think the blue land is just better early game. They want blue-white instead of blue-black because they don't really run much discard.
All right, so looking at these in Modern, you have to find a certain home. How about Standard?
Standard, depending on how the decks are going to work out, they're going to see some number of play or some amount of play. I guess the big question is that yes, you want your lands to come to play untapped, but how many is too many? Like I was mentioning earlier, sometimes you just don't want your lands to come to play tapped on turns 5, turn 6. Say you're playing Chandra, say you're playing Nissa's Vital Force. You don't want your land that you ripped off the top to cast your 4-drop to come to play tapped. So you want to maybe run 2 of these. Is 3 too many?
Well,
I think Frank Carson might have done the math.
Yeah, I forget what his article said about it. I don't know. Are you really upset that? I mean, you're not gonna cut Hissing Quagmire from your Black Ring Delirium deck. It's just not gonna happen. You want that. You want that extra attack, angle in your deck. I could see at least a 2 of. Depends on how you fashion your deck. Like Spire Bluff Canal. Let's face it, that card in a blue-red spells deck, yeah, you're gonna play the full 4. You don't care.
Yep.
Yeah, that card is gonna,
straight gas, homie.
Yeah. Any time that you can go, well, I'll play this first and then Wandering Funeral later on. Yeah, you're not gonna care that's coming to play tap later on in the game. So getting back to how we lost colorless mana, but we gained Aether. Was it the Aetherwine Hub or Aether Hub? When it enters the battlefield, you get a energy. Tap for a colorless, or you can pay energy. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
So I'm not sure how good this card's going to be. I want energy to be a thing, and I'm brewing it in my mind every day when I'm at work. But, yeah, I mean...
As a 1 or 2 up?
It's too bad you have to tap it. If you could just pay energy
Oh,
to get colorless mana, that energy like combo deck would be insane.
Yeah,
I'd play all of these.
That would be too broken. Anytime you could just pay energy to get mana, that'd be
so good.
Yeah, no, that yeah, no, you already said that you want to create some, you're already brewing with energy. Imagine if you could just pay energy and get mana.
Ooh, baby, make it a 4. That would be a freaking rare. That should be a rare.
Yeah, no, it'd be a mythic rare and legendary.
So what else we got on our list? Cards that are busts.
Oh yeah, let's get to my favorite. I'm gonna go. I don't think it's much of a limb, but Saheeli Rai.
All right.
Yeah.
This card.
Like, okay. Do you want me to read it since it's my bane, or?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
I have people in chat that love me. DJ Moore, I miss you, man. Welcome back, dude.
All right. So Saheeli Rai, 1 red, 1 blue, 1 colorless for 3 loyalty planeswalker. Scry 1, Saheeli Rai deals 1 damage to each opponent.
Does this card do anything? Like, it's a 3-drop planeswalker. Give me something that does something.
You scry 1 and deal 1 damage.
Great. To each opponent.
Yeah. Chandra just, I think, laughs at Saheeli.
This card doesn't... Okay, so we talked about planeswalkers already to death. It has to be able to protect itself.
Yep, which
This
it doesn't do.
Does not do that at all. It has to generate some type of advantage. If you have Gear Hulks, this card's great. Because it's -2 ability.
Okay,
right.
Let's get to the -2.
So it's -2 ability. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, except if it's an artifact in addition to its other types. That token gains haste exile at the beginning of the next end step. Wow, there's a lot of words there.
Yeah, that's a large text box for the middle of that card. Okay, so you're saying you can copy a Gear Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
gives it haste.
That's a great idea. But
come into play.
But this has to survive until you get a Gear Hulk.
I think you play Gear Hulk, then you follow it up with this card.
Okay.
It's also a -2 ability, which puts Ray down to 1. Then you have to use its Scry ability. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Again, I think a terrible bust of a card.
I think this card's just bad.
Okay. Let's read it anyway. So -7. Search your library for up to 3 artifact cards with different names. Put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. When are you ultimating this card?
Never. Search your library. Are you playing a 3 Gear Hulk deck? Could you scry enough times to make it worth it?
Yeah, at that point, your ratio of how many artifacts you're playing to how many you're going to get in play with this ultimate. Now, any other planeswalker, when you play the ultimate, usually you're winning or have a huge advantage.
Does this win the game?
No, absolutely not.
Does it put you in position to win the game with Gear Hulks?
It does, but at extreme risk, because you ultimated this thing, you get your Gear Hulks, great. Next turn, your control player fumigates, or your black-blue controller murders one of them, and then does something to take care of one of the other artists. It just, I don't think it's enough advantage to. I mean, now you got to get. She starts at 3 loyalty. You have to get her up to 7 to begin with.
Mm-hmm. It's going to take a lot of time and energy to get her to where she needs to be.
And any kind of blue-red deck, you want to, like, any blue-red deck is, you got your spells, you have, maybe a fast, like, Thopter flying deck, a little bit of red on the side for, PNOR.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a card we didn't even touch on.
I didn't think we had to.
Card's not as good as Pia Caramel.
Yeah, no, not near. That's why
Unfortunately.
I didn't even mention it. Yeah, no, this card straight bust. I see this being a $4 or $5 planeswalker before long.
Yo.
You
I
know,
mean, EDH.
maybe.
The -2 is probably good enough in EDH, but other than that, it's just gonna die.
Yeah.
It's just gonna die.
And easily too. It doesn't even take much to kill her.
Alright, so what else do we want to touch on?
What other card is bust?
What other cards are bust for me? Well, we talked about a few of them already. Metalwork Colossus, I think, is definitely a bust.
And you
You know
had
what's funny? Is I initially thought Nissa was a bust until I realized that her +1 ability is able to kill Chandra.
I don't understand why you
I
think
think
this is a bust.
I think that
There's
puts it
no
in
way.
another category now where it's obviously not a bust because it kills the other $80 Planeswalker.
Like,
for $25.
anytime a planeswalker can come in the battlefield, protect itself, and then ultimate it next turn, unless green falls off the face of the earth as an archetype,
Which it has done in the past because green has been known to be
without
touchy from time to time.
without a doubt, green has had major fails, but Nissa is way too good to just be a bust. I mean, as far as $20-25, maybe it'll seep down 15 if it doesn't see much play, but it won't go much further than that. Anytime with that level ultimate drawing cards with green, that's I think only pure control can contain that, and that's if you counter Nissa.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the Green Gear Hulk is a bust. I think they were pre-selling at 14th.
It's not a bust. Believe it or not, if anybody wants to check it out, BBD had this as the best Gear Hulk. Literally number one.
Wow, what was he playing?
I don't know.
Obviously playing. He might just be playing Ban. This is their 5-drop.
I mean, okay, I give him all the credit in the world. He world champion.
Yep.
Regardless of how the game shakes out, regardless of any variance, but he listed this as number one. And granted, he's a pro. I'm not a pro, but I still think he's dead wrong. I think
I agree with you.
I think the blue Gear Hulk is going to smash this thing all day long. I don't see it. I do not see this as number one.
Did you say the Green Gear Hulk is gonna smash this thing all day?
No, the blue Gear Hulk
Okay,
is
thank
gonna smash all day. Yeah, no, Predator Gear Hulk, it's good, but as far as being number one, sorry, BBD, I think you're wrong on that one.
Yo, I completely agree. So, now that I'm looking through some of these, we were talking about bust. A card that I want to be good, and we didn't even touch on this, I completely forgot about it until just now. Confiscation Coup. So choose target artifact or creature, you get 4 energy, and then you may pay any amount of energy to that permanent's converted mana cost. If you do, gain control of it.
5 mana, take a 4
Thoughts?
converted mana cost? No.
The chance been happening?
Nope.
Okay.
You're not going to steal anything worthwhile.
Unless you have other things, yeah.
Yeah, no, now, if you wanted to see a card I think is going to see play as far as stealing something, let's go to that blue uncommon that you can pitch an artifact to them and take one of their best things.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Ceremonious Rejection.
Yeah, I want to get your take on that actually.
Ceremonious Rejection says 1 blue, counter target colorless spell. Now, I'm not sure in standard, but obviously my
Sideboard and standard all day.
Okay, sideboard and standard.
Because of
Eldrazi,
Menace. All plus, don't forget all the your Hedron Archive. All those kind of spells are all colorless. Your Thought Not Seer, Reality Smasher, Eldrazi Displacer himself.
Yep.
All colorless.
I want to talk a little bit about this in Vintage because the menace that's going around in Vintage, from what I've seen, is Eldrazi Menace. You see it a little bit in Standard. We've seen it in Legacy. We see it in Modern a little bit with Bant Eldrazi. This card's just going to see play. In Vintage specifically because, well, God, you can play Thought Not Seer basically on turn 1 if you want to. Mostly other turns 2 through 3. And all it does is just wreck your hand. they they don't even play Reality Smasher in Vintage because it's not good enough. They play just all the value cards, with Thought Not Seer being by far the best. And being able to counter that for one, possibly two if they have a like a Sphere effect on the field, like Sphere Resistance. I think Ceremonious Rejection is exactly what they needed in Vintage, and I'm happy they printed it. I know this card's going to see play. Even I think Bant Eldrazi was the most played deck in a modern GP recently, or I think it was, I don't remember if it was what percentage of the field was it day two? It was pretty substantial. It was the most played deck in day two. So there's no reason for you not to play this in your sideboard. One of, two of, are you playing Snapcaster Mage? You make it a one of.
So sideboard implications for standard, I definitely say, if Emerge stays around, yeah, this is going to be a sideboard all day long. I
I
mean,
didn't even think about Emerge.
oh
Wow.
yeah,
That's a good point.
all those cards, I mean, and they're sacking a creature to do it. It's just like it's a complete blowout.
Value 2 for 1.
So again, I love foils. The value on some of the foils are just skyrocket. What's a foil gonna be worth because of vintage and like is it gonna see legacy play?
Easily $10.
Is it gonna see legacy play? That's another.
Eldrazi is still one of the best decks. Yes, I think it's going to see.
Okay, now also the mud decks, those are still.
They're not necessarily around anymore because it became Eldrazi.
Gotcha.
Because of Ceremonious Rejection. Let's look at. I bet you they're sold out. Yep, sold out at $5. I could definitely see that.
Okay, so that says pretty much keep the foil copies you get. Hold on to them.
I don't foresee this card going down
Yeah,
anytime
no.
soon.
If someone's willing to trade you one cheap, pick it up. Just put it in a box. Put it in a
Great.
penny sleeve.
This card's not going to get reprinted anytime soon. Pick them up.
Put it in a penny sleeve. Put it in a hardcover case. Throw it in a box. Let it sit there for a couple years, and that card is definitely going to go up in value.
Collect value.
So let's go down to that. Let's go down. I forget the name of it actually.
So let's just go through. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about you can
let's
change control about artifacts.
Yeah, let's hit that card real fast. Revolutionary Rebuff. Counter target non-artifact spell unless its controller pays 2. The new mana leak.
Control decks needed it.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's an early answer, but is it sideboard or is it main deck?
Main deck, definitely.
Okay.
I can't see artifacts being like overly powerful. Yes, it doesn't counter a Gear Hulk. Maybe that's the only thing that'll keep it from seeing play is that it can't counter a Gear Hulk.
2 of in a blue-white control deck until the format says otherwise, and then pitch it to the sideboard if you need it.
I can definitely see that.
All
Definitely, right. If nothing else, sideboard card definitely.
Okay, let's go to one of my favorite, Shrewd Negotiation. Exchange control of target artifact you control and target artifact or creature you don't control. It's a blue and 5 colorless.
With artifact and creature?
Yep. So now this is the type of card when I was thinking of the blue-black artifact deck. You give them a worthless artifact and you take their creature just straight up.
Mm-hmm.
You take their Gear Hulk. You give them a filigree fox. Who cares? Give them a puzzle knot. You wanna play those worthless cards? Let's give them a.
I want to play puzzle knots all day, and I'm chaining it for your Gear Hulks. Wait for it, baby.
Yeah, I mean, let's give them a worthless puzzle knot. I'm game for that.
I can get behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better than the other one that you have to pay energy for. I mean, the 2 blue, 3 colorless rare. I think it's in the right kind of artifact deck. I think it's a pretty good card.
Now that we're talking about just random cards that I think are going to be good, I like Windrake. I like Windrake in Limited. I will play him all day.
Yeah,
3-drop.
And Limited, that's the only place you're ever going to see him.
Exactly. I just like the card. I've seen Windrakes. The card's been reprinted quite a bit over the years.
So let's go back to blue for one moment. I wanna bring up one other card in case energy becomes a thing, and it's the the one enchantment that you can sack 5 energy and draw. Yeah, no, not that,
Come on. Aether Squall Agent, come on.
not that garbage.
Come on.
Arrow of Innovation. There we go. 1 blue, 1 colorless enchantment. Whenever an artifact or artificer enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, you get 2 energy. Pay 6 energy. Draw 3 cards. Now, not gonna, you know, light up the board for play. But with the land that, you can tap for one, one of any color if you pay an energy. How good is this card in that sort of deck?
Unfortunately, you have to pay 1 for it. In that Artifact Storm deck, with your win condition being Aether something Reservoir, where you basically pay 50 life and kill somebody, it could see the play.
I mean,
but how are you generating the mana?
Yeah,
I'm not really sure how it works exactly.
That's the thing. Like when I was brainstorming it, the blue-black artifact deck, maybe, just maybe. I mean, the blue draw spell could be just strictly better. You don't have to waste the time going through all the hoops to get this card to work. So just a little side note on if energy becomes a thing, an energy deck. It could be something, but we got to see, what energy flushes out in the format.
It's hard to say no to Ancestral Recall.
Mm.
And speaking of Ancestral Recall, we didn't even touch on this red card. We completely missed.
No, it's right up there. Cathartic.
Yes, Cathartic Reading.
Yeah.
Did Dredge need a better tormenting voice? No, they didn't, but they printed it.
Here's my problem with this card. I don't like this card for 2 reasons. Is you are gaining advantage in a Dredge deck without a doubt, but
in an Eldrazi style ramp deck, if you want to cast Emberclaw.
Not even that though,
because you get to pick and choose.
But here's the thing: when they counter that spell, it's such a heart-sinking feeling. You just discarded 3 cards and did stone nothing. I mean, granted, when you're pitching Golgar Grave Troll, you don't care anyway. Okay, so they counter it, you're just stretching back. But this card not going to see standard play. If it does, I'll be highly shocked. I don't think it provides enough value for what it's doing. And like I said, I just want to see the first time somebody gets this countered and they get no value off of it. I just want to see their face absolutely sink.
So what are our thoughts on the Menace, the 2 and a red 4/4 Haster that technically does 8 damage before it dies? Is that going to see play in other formats? It's good enough.
I don't know. I mean, you're better off with judging modern than I am.
I was thinking of this in like a burn deck, but then again, you want to be able to kill them on two mana. So I'm not sure, but it seems really good. It seems very, very strong.
I mean, is it good enough to get by some of the removal? I mean, are they going to use removal? Are they just going to chump block it?
If not, in other formats, I could definitely see this in. If you're going to be playing anything aggressive, this guy is where it's at.
Yeah, in standard, I was talking briefly about a big red deck. I don't know if that has a home. I think Chandra just when you're playing, like I'm talking about a big red mana deck, and I don't know. I just don't think this would have a home. Maybe against a control deck. Something fast gets under some of the board wipe, things of that nature. But I don't know. I don't see it really hitting home.
And another card we didn't talk about: Hype Train, Madcap Experiment for other formats. If anybody knows Madcap Experiments, it says reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Madcap Experiment deals damage to you equal to the number of cards revealed this way. So you have the chance of killing yourself, but there's an enchantment, an artifact that says your life nodal cannot change. So it comes into play before you deal the damage. So Empyrean, Platinum Empyrean is
Yes.
the new combo deck. It loses to Path to Exile under the formats, but I still think it's going to see play in some time, in some way, shape, or form. I wanted it to be Blade Steel Colossus because you play 4 Madcap Experiments and 2 Empyreans, and then you play the rest of your deck. Heck, I might play it in Jund.
Mm,
Might play it in Jund.
I don't know. For maybe some mad scientist somewhere will come up with this for a modern deck.
Brew, baby, brew.
I don't know.
The hype train, Empyreans went up a
Yeah,
dollar, $2.
but the hype train also pushed Verder's Gearhulk to 15 when it probably should be a $8 card. So, um,
Hey, well,
I don't know.
I'm starting to run out of ideas, and I think we should try to save. Do you want to talk about deck list? Do you want to save that for another time, or
We'll save deck list for another time. We'll gather
I
our
want to
wits
try to
about
play.
this.
I want to try to play some of the cards maybe this weekend, before we come back and pick some decks. With the pre-release coming up, Saturday, Sunday. Definitely get out there and try some of the new cards. A lot of them seem sweet.
So, as far as ending this little broadcast, let's let's just look back some of your like most teeth grinding wins in standard probably in the past 2 months. Anything stick out for you?
Honestly, almost every game, if I was winning, oh god, I did beat an advanced Eldrazi deck as green. I was playing green red Eldrazi ramp against Ban. My opponent had 8 points of damage on the field. I had just played a um, Gnarlwood Dryad or something off of a. I had to try to stabilize my life, so I had to play. I had 6 mana in play. I had to play Grapple. I had the I had the full graveyard of -6 to my Emrakul to bring back my Kozilek's Return, and I wasn't able to do it. I didn't have enough mana, so I was trying to buy time. So I grappled the pack into a Gnarlwood Dryad. I play the Gnarlwood Dryad. I have Lightning Axe in my hand, and I have another grapple the pack. And I'm trying to think to myself, like, how do I finagle this situation? He has a tireless tracker with no counters. It's a 3/2. It's a 4/3, I believe. He has a Gideon on the field, which is basically going to kill me. And he has a couple other things going on, and I'm just dead. Like I was at 8 or 10 life or something like that. I'm thinking to myself, the only thing I can do is his removal spell, a Dramoka's Command. And I was all in. I was like, if he had Dramoka's Command and no spell queller, because he has 2 cards in hand, he hasn't played anything for a while. I'm like, if he has Dramoka's Command and spell queller, I just lose. So he decides to end step Dramoka's Command to try to fight my dude with his like random 2/2. I can't remember exactly what it was. They play a lot of 2s and 3s to kill my guy to basically be able to swing him with the Gideon. So I end up just being able to responding with a Lightning Axe on his guy in response to the Dramoka's Command, which allowed me to block the Gideon on the following turn, which put me to like 2 life, and I still had the grapple left over. So I got back my Emrakul. On the following turn, I ripped the Sanctum like a champ for the 8 mana. I fucking windmill slam the Emrakul on the board, and I basically get it to where he like kills his entire board through different attacks, and I think I don't remember exactly what he drew for the turn, but unfortunately he had the Gideon, so I couldn't really swing. But it was really only the Gideon was the thing that I was worried about. So when I played the Emrakul, I wiped his board with the Kozilek's Return that I talked to you about, and so he only had Gideon. So I was basically just like I believe I minus the Gideon enough to where that I could kill it on the following turn with my Emrakul, and I just kind of grinded him out from there. So talk about getting lucky there.
So one of my favorite matches that happened was a white black control deck I'm playing against with my red green ramp. Uh, it was a red green ramp with Emrakul, Ulamog, and Elder Fiend with no blue mana whatsoever. So I was just hard casting Elder Fiend out of my deck, and he just slams Sorin on the battlefield. I'm at 3 life already. I'm just like sweating bullets that he's gonna just peel that card that's just gonna kill me. First card he peels is a land. I'm like, oh, thank God. So my board develops a little bit. I'm just looking. I slam an Emrakul. I'm like, this is just beautiful. I couldn't ask for something better. So I smash him. I smash him with the or
Reality smash.
I take his turn. I can't do anything pretty much. I can basically burn his Sorin, and he gains the life from it. I smash him the next turn. He drops another Sorin on this turn. I'm like, oh come on. He peels another land, and I'm like, I'm still at 3 life at this point. So I'm like, this is just brutal. And at this point, he had been hitting me with the Shambling Vent, so he's at this huge life total, plus the life he just gained with Soren. So I'm just like, okay, I swing again with Emrakul. I get him down to 5. He takes his next turn. He peels another land with Soren's ability, and I'm just like, he he finally swings with the Shambling Vent, gets me down to 1 life. Then he ruined his past my Emrakul. I'm like, great. What am I gonna do now? Off the top, Ulamog, get rid of his Shambling Vent and his Soren, and he had no answer. Swinging 1,
Kill you.
absolutely devastated him. He was just like so many turns flipping Soren, had no way to get through it, and it was just the look on his face when I just top deck ripped empty hand Ulamog to get rid of both of his threats, and he had absolutely no answer to it. Had me at 3 life for 4 turns and couldn't kill me.
So one other thing about teeth grinding moments is if I had to say my teeth grinding win, it's just day to day life, right? As my girlfriend says in chat. So, I mean, seems like we're winding down. So, uh, not bad for a set review. I felt like that went pretty smooth. This is our first time trying this out. Hopefully, if you guys see us on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, Twitter, what have you, feel free to shoot us a message. I'm willing to talk about Magic basically all the time, day in day out.
Also, if you're in the area, the place we play at, Giltleaf Games in Norwich, Connecticut. You can find it on Facebook, Giltleaf Games. Brand new store just opened up not too long ago. You can stop on by. Brand new startup. We're definitely started off, hit the ground running. Tons of people that love to just go there and play any night of the week. It's usually pretty full. You want just grab a game. EDH is huge on the weekends on Saturday. People love to play EDH, and you just so many different events on the schedule. Check it out if you're in the area, and hopefully soon get a website up, and will be more information that you can gather off of that.
So I just want to say one thing about their format. So Monday is Modern at 6:30, Tuesday is Standard at 6:30, Wednesday is Chaos Draft, and/or sometimes the new format Draft.
He
That
changed it all to
starts
6.
at 6. Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me. So everything's at 6. So
Yep.
Monday Modern at 6, Tuesday Standard at 6, Wednesday Draft at 6, Thursday is sometimes Sealed, sometimes Draft. And they're basically always open past 9 for the most part. I was there last night at 10, and they were just firing up a draft of Eternal Masters. So feel free to stop by anytime. Friday's obviously Friday Night Magic. Saturday is EDH, starting at around noon to 1 o'clock. Sunday is Yu-Gi-Oh. We hold. When I say we're such a community that we're all inclusive. We like to. I mean, we just started streaming recently. This content might be shared on the Guild Life Games page, most likely, since we're such good friends with the owner. So, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the store. I'm really happy with the way things have turned out, and I'm really happy that people are coming over from other stores to join us and to have fun.
Plus, I'll just add this too. It's a comfortable play environment.
Mm.
As far as comfort level goes, it's spacious. You have tons of tables to play games on. Literally you can spread out, and it's just a great place to relax. It really is.
And speaking about, I was talking about community earlier, and you just mentioned what was the word that you just used? Not spacious, but you were talking about more of a um, so what style of store? I'm sorry,
Uh,
I forget the word that you just used, but and that's besides the point. What I want to talk about is yes, we are a competitive store, but Friday Night Magics are also free to play. You won't necessarily get prize, but you have the opportunity to play, test out new decks for free. You can show up, you can play, you can borrow decks from other people. The store actually makes decks for people, kind of sort of on the budget. But if you want to get out and play Magic, maybe you want to learn a little bit, this is the store where you want to be. No other store other than like one of my ones from way back in college used to basically give out free decks. This is the shop that you want to play at if you want to build, if you want to, kind of sort of grow into a format. People are great. People borrow cards, uh, buy cards, help you with your deck, play free F&Ms. How can you say no?
and also, let's add, Mike and I spend a considerable time there ourselves.
No,
Uh,
that never happens.
and I'm there all the time. Love to play Magic, but beyond that, I love to teach Magic. Anybody who wants to learn Magic, anything having to do with the game, any rules interactions. Not only that, is you have the owner, Lynn. He is a terrific gentleman. You want help with your deck, he will help you. He
Mm-hmm.
will take the time out of his day to help you. If you want to make your deck better, if he can't think of how to do it, there is 5 gamers in the store that will guaranteed be able to help you with your deck. You wanna
Mm-hmm.
you wanna go through ideas, run through
Mm-hmm.
ideas on how to make your deck better.
Mm-hmm. You want to
There's
play test?
and like myself, I'm a semi-serious player. I love the standard format, love the tournaments, and it's if a new deck comes out and it looks interesting to me, I'm playing it. It's without a doubt. If something looks like it grabs my attention, I'll play it. You want to know how to beat it? I'll even tell you. I'll tell you the best cards on how to beat the deck.
Exactly.
And it's like what sideboard cards should I have for my deck? What should I have in the main deck? What do you think of the current format? And pretty much when you go down there, you will have people who are as interested in Magic, if not more, than you are.
Mm-hmm. Nice fresh sign. Check it out, guys. So this is us signing off. This is Brainstorming with Mike and Mike.
Have a good night.
Take care, guys. Look forward to seeing you again.